April 2025. In fact, the first month in the second quarter is nearly ending. This week it will end. How is your New Year resolution and all the goals you set for yourself? How is it going? Benjamin Akakpo.
You want us to take us back to February?
Yeah.
You want to take us back to February?
I'm still in the month of love.
Yeah. We are making progress.
Celebrating love.
We are making progress. Yeah, you want to take us back to February.
Welcome
That's a lovely outfit, though.
Thank you, Benjamin.
Look
at what you did again.
Yeah.
Look what you did again.
And my tie.
Look what you did again.
Yeah. We're in the spirit. But here we are ushering you into a new week. And what can you expect on the show this morning? The Sweetie and Ben show. We'll be serving you the news in the bit, followed by the news review. Vicky Bright is a former legal advisor to President Kufuor. She joins us. Amanda Clinton is a lawyer. It will be an all-women's affair this morning as Sweetie Abochi joins them. And then we'll serve you sports, and after that, get into our big stories.
Now, the biggest story in this country is still the suspension of the Chief Justice. Today, we'll continue our conversation on that. And we know Joy News Checks has revealed that some members of the Ghana Bar Association want the leadership to rewrite to the president, asking to revoke the suspension of the CJ. We have that on our plates today, and we'll get incisive with that conversation. But that's not all.
We've also got a conversation on women in sustainability Africa. There's a conference coming up in May, and we'll be telling you about what exactly the plan is as the organizers join us in the studio. And after that, there's still more.
Do you know about the Domestic Workers Union? Well, they have some particular challenges that they want to share with us today on the show. They will also be engaged on the AM show this morning. But it's Monday, and at the tail end of the show, what should you expect? The
fun side of our Monday on the AM show. Derek Elom Ashilivi, the guy whose legs look like Jot. Jot. He says my head is big, so his legs look like Jot. He'll be joining us with Jackie. They'll come our way with trends, and you want to stick and stay for that, because everything that's sassy, that's funky, that's entertaining, they'll be bringing it your way right here in our studios.
And of course, the AM show is sponsored by Waylead Properties, giving you affordable housing with flexible payment options. Stick and stay with us. First item on our order, the AM news. This is the AM News Bulletin on the AM Show. Across Ghana's 16 regions, on the Joy News channel, on Facebook, on X Spaces, and on YouTube. We're also live on myjoyonline.com. First, the Ghana Bar Association is asking for full transparency by making petitions public and allowing a Chief Justice the chance to defend him or herself in open proceedings. These are part of proposals the President of the Bar is offering for reforms in the 1992 Constitution. Ifwa Gate, at the Bar's mid-year conference held at the Labadi Beach Hotel, indicated that the Bar is monitoring developments in the processes and will comment when the time is right.
Another such committee, the Public Awareness Committee, is one that seeks to educate the public on topical legal issues. One such issue, which is currently on the lips of Ghanaians as a result of the publicity associated with the process triggered for the removal of the Chief Justice, is what is a prima facie case? People then go on to ask, what is the raison d'etre for establishing a prima facie case? Are there any standards to be met in concluding that a prima facie case has been established? Having been informed as a country that petitions against the Chief Justice have been filed, you are repeatedly asked, at what point in time does the country get to know the contents of the petitions? What if the petitions are frivolous, but steps have been taken which may impugn the reputation of the person against whom the petitions have been filed? Assuming that there is a hearing, how long should the hearing be? Can the Chief Justice elect to have the proceedings heard in public instead of in camera? And many more such questions. This process is a novel one in our history as a country, and we, the Bar, must continue to monitor the situation and not hesitate to express our opinion on it where the circumstances demand. It is important that in such matters, justice is not only done, but manifestly be seen to have been done. Indeed, it is for this reason that in the wisdom of the Supreme Court, in the 2020 judgment of the Republic versus the Chief Justice and the Attorney General, reference number 36/027019, the court led by Doche JSC, in the epilogue of the judgment, called for the formulation of rules of procedure for the impeachment of Article 71 office holders in the conduct of proceedings under Article 146 of the 1992 Constitution. The judgment concluded, and I quote, "Judges be accorded a fair measure of justice, fairness, and equity in all deliberations that affect them." It is about time that these guidelines were produced in order to eliminate arbitrariness in such proceedings, which ought to be held expeditiously and possibly in open court, given the necessary publicity such matters attract.
Ifwagate also says the GBA will take a frontline role in the fight against illegal mining to protect Ghana's environment.
Galamsey is an issue which continues to plague the country's developmental process. The association is committed to playing important roles in the fight against Galamsey. Roles including, but not limited to, promoting the rule of law, by pushing for stricter enforcement and amendments to existing legislation, and encouraging citizens to report illegal mining activities. This is to ensure that transparency and accountability are encouraged within the legal system. Lawyers have contributed and continue to contribute their quota to strengthening our institutions by, among other things, serving on boards of various institutions. Per the minutes of the Ghana Bar Association dated 24th November 1972, the statutory and international bodies that some members of the association served on were 6 in number, including one known as Ghana UNESCO. However, today, per the available records, members of the association serve on not less than 35 statutory bodies, which number ought to be increased, considering the number of statutory bodies operating in Ghana now. By so doing, these statutory bodies will hopefully be spared any needless legal challenge which can impede the function of the statutory body towards the development of the said sector.
Moving on, Chairman of the Gridco Senior Staff Association, Wisdom Kojo Adongo, has revealed that Energy Minister John Jinapor has promised to consider transitioning Gridco from a limited liability company to an authority. He's optimistic that such a move will improve power delivery in the country. Martina Bugri has the rest of the story from the 7th Biennial Delegate Congress of the Gridco Staff Association in Tamale.
Gridco Senior Staff Association's 7th National Biennial Conference was under the theme Forging Partnership for a Resilient and Sustainable Energy Future. Delivering his speech, the Senior Staff Association Chairman, Wisdom Kojo Adongo, said Gridco, when turned into an authority, would have enormous benefit to the country.
The current sector minister to meet the leadership of Gridco SSA, during which we presented a position paper on Gridco challenges. And at the said meeting, Mr. Chairman, he promised, which will be pursuing vigorously, to evolve Gridco from its current status of limited liability company to an authority, which will greatly inure to the benefit of the company as a whole.
He also added that Gridco plans to form a national coalition with energy sector partners to advocate for their interests and address challenges collectively.
PRA, NETCO, ECG, Ganaga, IES, ESEP, and these, in a time of challenges, Mr. Chairman, may I bring to the notice of the Congress, we are about to form a national coalition with this group of people, where we have now acknowledged being alone will not be strengthened enough.
The acting chief executive officer of Gridco, Frank Otris, emphasized the company's commitment to delivering power efficiently.
As the backbone to power delivery in Ghana, Gridco remains committed to excellence, transparency, and accountability. These values drive us to continually improve our infrastructure, optimize our operations, and strengthen collaborations across the world. Work towards a resilient and sustainable energy future. We need to reaffirm our commitment to partnerships, innovation, and sustainability. Together, we can turn challenges into opportunities and build a Gridco which is a strong backbone to power delivery in Ghana.
Municipal Health Director of Wassa Amenfi East, Lola Majid Akings, is calling for more malaria control actions if Ghana wants to join the ranks of malaria-free zones. Speaking at the commemoration of the 2025 World Malaria Day in Abenasi in the Wassa Amenfi East Municipality, where Perseus Mining Ghana Limited Company and Medisite Services Ghana donated some medical and sanitary items, the health director said that with collaborative efforts, Ghana can be declared a malaria-free zone by 2030. Abigail Esel Nkrumah has more in this report.
Perseus Mining Ghana Limited Company partnered with Medisite Services Ghana to donate some medical and sanitary items to the Abenasi community in the Wassa Amenfi East Municipality to mark the 2025 World Malaria Day. Speaking at the event, the acting general manager of Perseus Mining Ghana, Alex Kofi Ojo, stated that this year's theme, Reinvest, Reimagine, Reignite, is a call to action against malaria as the disease continues to be one of the leading causes of deaths in low-income countries.
This theme aims to raise awareness about the urgent actions needed in the fight against malaria, emphasizing the importance of continued investment, innovation, collaboration, and commitment from the global malaria eradication community. Ladies and gentlemen, as a mining company operating in this area, we recognize the critical role we must play in supporting the health and well-being of the communities around us. We do not therefore take this responsibility lightly. We have consequently partnered with local clinics in this fight, built health centers, supported awareness programs, provided insecticide-treated nets, and contributed to spraying campaigns aimed at controlling mosquitoes, which are the main carriers of the malaria over the years. Nana Chairman, even all these efforts, the fact still remains that malaria continues to affect many lives. That is why we are here today to reaffirm our commitment to working together with you to strengthen efforts at prevention, improving awareness, and ensuring early treatment.
Leslie Mensah is Operations and Quality Manager of Medisite Services, a company dedicated to provide sustainable quality medical services to remote communities.
We donated some hospital beds, which we believe will help when patients are on admission. We also donated malaria RDT kits because these are what we normally use for diagnosing. It plays a pivotal role in the diagnosis of malaria. We also provided other medical supplies like methylated spirit, cotton wool, and then gauze roll as well. And we believe that these would actually help the health professionals in the diagnosis of malaria.
The Municipal Health Director of Wassa Amenfi East, Lola Majid Akins, while expressing appreciation, shared her hopes of Ghana becoming a malaria-free zone by 2030.
We want to express our appreciation to Messiah Service Ghana for what they've done, the donations that they've given, and then in collaboration with Pesos Mining. We are very grateful and we hope that it will not end here. Malaria actually starts with us and it should end with us, so that by the year 2028 to 2030, we will also be declared zero malaria free. And I believe that with collaboration and all hands on deck, we shall also reach there.
From Abenabena in Wasamenfi East Municipality, Abigail Lissel in Nkrumah reports for Joy News.
Residents of Abenasi in the Ejisu municipality of the Ashanti region can now heave a sigh of relief, drinking potable water from their taps. They hitherto woke up at dawn to walk long distances to queue for water. Clinton Yabua reports that it's all in the past now.
According to UNICEF, 1 of every 10 people spend more than half an hour to access improved source of drinking water. The Abenasi community for many years have contributed to these statistics as access to water has persistently been a struggle. Recognizing this ordeal, an attempt by traditional authorities to sink some boreholes in the community failed to address the challenge entirely. Abenasi Hene Nana Dr. Ekuo Kupwaten explains.
We started initially to set up some boreholes. And I've done about close to 30 boreholes in Abenasi, Abenasi, Asapon, the community where I'm in charge. And so we had water to the homes from the borehole, but the problem was you have to go outside and carry the water in your bucket home. So here comes Assemblyman Sahin Adom. He's a very smart young man. And so he brought the idea, said we should find a way to connect the waters from the boreholes into the homes so that you can open the tap in your house. And this.
In dealing with the challenge, the local authority made efforts to improve on the existing boreholes. The assembly member of the Abenasi electoral area, Adom Sahine, and his unit committee secured additional funding to expand the network directly to households. Out of a target of over 15,000 residents, over 30 homes are currently benefiting from the initiative. Adom Sahine says the move aligns with the UN's Sustainable Development Goal 6, which admonishes clean and affordable water by 2030.
The piloting, we engaged about 100 households, which we got 80. So with the 80, we are done with 30, in which we have attached a water reading meter. So instead of carrying a bucket or a pan to fetch at a designated area, you will be at the comfort of your home to have access to a potable drinking water, which means with the SDG Development Goal 6, that is clean water and sanitation. We have given ourselves by the end of the year, we have to be cover about 80% of the all household in the Ejisu Abenasi electoral area.
Meanwhile, Member of Parliament for the Ejisu constituency, Kwabena Boateng, has indicated plans to expand water supply to communities with water challenge.
We should be able to put it on a large. As I stood there, I was thinking about other communities in my jurisdiction who will also be in need of this. So immediately I leave here, I'm meeting the assembly member and his team to see how we can look at, the framework and how we can replicate it in other areas to give our people, the essentials, the basics of life, which is also water. So we are grateful to Nana.
Residents of Abenasi welcomed the initiative, sharing how the accessibility of water is going to improve their daily lives.
Me madia so akonsu ya na edin mam to da kura che me de bopa tinana no mada roma wo mbeye ebi omu de mai me ho atom bebre.
For Joy News, my name is Clinton Yabua.
One's dream of studying abroad and potentially working after school could hit a snag due to the complex nature of processes and constant changes in immigration laws. International consultancy advisory service provider Best Education Services has warned that despite opportunities out there, one could fall prey to agencies claiming to offer such services. General Manager Ismail Muslim was speaking at the UK-Europe Study and Career Fair, taking prospective applicants through requirements of schools in the UK and Europe. There's more in this report.
The UK-Europe Study and Career Fair by Best Education Services in Accra took prospective students through various stages of the applications, scholarships, among other things in UK and Europe, and what's expected of the applicants. General Manager of Best Education Services, Ismail Muslim, says applying with worthy results, you'll be required to study a foundation program before pursuing bachelor's degree. With diploma, one has to take pre-master's degree for a semester and progress to master's program or a year top-up. The next category is made up of people with bachelor's degree hoping to do master's degree program, as well as those seeking opportunity to take PhD aside short courses for professionals. Ismail Muslim says avoiding teething challenges will save the day.
The process is long and it's tedious, and currently, as people would know, there's a lot of immigration changes and policy changes, and so it's about the time that you need that consultancy with international reputation to help you through the entire process. So this morning we're here with about 10 of our partner UK universities to offer Ghanaians, or to help Ghanaians that want to study in the UK, to understand what sells in the UK, what are the programs that they ought to be studying in the UK to ensure that they get a good career at the end of their studies.
Ismail Muslim says scholarships are based on schools and government of the respective country.
When you take the UK, the education sector is one of those areas that the government is looking to attract more people in. So you realize that they are offering more scholarship for people that want to undertake courses related to teaching, professional teaching in several subject areas.
Meanwhile, some participants are happy with what the universities are offering, but are asking for more scholarship.
Per my expectation, I think I came here because of the scholarship opportunities, right? But listening to all that they said, it's like most of the schools are not really giving me the amounts that I wanted to hear, right? And I was like, maybe they would have like 50% scholarship or 70%, but like most of them are merit based. Then like maybe the amount of scholarship they are giving is like 3,000 euros.
Explain the application process, the documents needed, the fees, and then the discount that is attached to each and every school. So for instance, there's the UK schools, the discount and then the scholarship attached, which is about the £2,000 automatic scholarship. And then with the Ireland too, they mention of the requirements and then the conditions attached to it. And then there's Germany too, the conditions and then what you are supposed to submit.
Best Education Services says there are almost a decade of experience with universities in UK, other parts of Europe and Canada. Helping avoid pitfalls is of great importance.
Business Updates comes up next with Benjamin Akakbo.
Welcome to our Business Updates. Let's get straight into our first story. Economist Dr. Eduowusu Sarkodie is asking government to pursue local production, reform the energy sector, and protect the poor and vulnerable to propel economic growth. His caution comes on the back of the International Monetary Fund's projected growth rate of 4% for Ghana by the end of this year. Speaking to Joy Business, Dr. Owusu Sarkodie stated government had to be deliberate and strategic in transforming the economy to achieve its growth target.
Say that I am happy about the social protection. I think the IMF has commended the government of Ghana, MPP government, they commended them, NDC government, they are still commending them for protecting the poor and the vulnerable in society in the midst of fiscal consolidation, when you are raising taxes, when you are raising tariffs, water tariffs, electricity tariffs, and etc. These will have their consequences on the poor and the vulnerable, so they must be protected. So the investment into the social protection programs like livelihood empowerment against poverty, NHIS, school feeding program, free SHS, all these things are very good to protect the poor and the vulnerable in society. I have indicated that the government also projected 4.0 in the 2025 budget. So if the IMF is projecting 4.0, it's the same. And I also said that maybe what we think of downward revision because the 2024 actual was 6%, and the 2025 projection is 4.0%. And the reason is that, the tight fiscal and tight monetary policies, these are the main reasons for the downward revision from 2024 actual of 6% to 2025 projection of 4.0%. But the 4.0% is just a projection. I think what is really may disturb us is the energy sector. I think we have to try and resolve all those. I've seen a number of reforms that the government expects to achieve or to do in the energy sector. So much that we don't want to experience doomsday, because we know what doomsday did to small enterprises in the year 2015 to 2016. So we have to manage the energy sector and also pursue local production. So 3 things: still continue to protect the poor and the vulnerable, manage the energy sector, reform the energy sector, and also pursue local production, so that whatever happens in the global environment, we know we are pushing and we are secured with local production.
Now, the Chief Executive Officer of the Venture Capital Trust Fund, Michael Abe, has reaffirmed the fund's dedication to improving operational efficiency as part of efforts to expand support for small and medium-sized enterprises nationwide. He made the remarks at the Ghana Venture Capital Conference, which also marks the launch of the fund's 20th anniversary Impact Report.
Also looking at establishing the 24-hour Economy SME Fund, and this is to support businesses that are already in existence but would want to scale up and, of course, increase productivity. And we already having some conversations with the 24-hour Economy Secretariat of the Presidency to see how we bring this to fruition. Of course, we are committed to our existing commitment we have with our fund managers. And so we hope that with these initiatives, particularly on the investment side, and the other initiatives we are doing in terms of the ecosystem development work, we should be able to, in a couple of years' time, help to build Ghana's venture capital and private equity system. Indeed. So 3-4 weeks ago, we had our VCAP, which is our Venture Capital Analyst Program exit ceremony, which graduated about 20 analysts. And it is with the vision of churning out human resource into the venture capital private equity ecosystem to sustain the work in the ecosystem.
And with those 2 stories, we cap off our business updates for you this morning. Handing over back to Sweetie Abochi.
Thanks, Bennett. That's how we wrap up the AM News Bulletin on the AM Show. Coming up next is the News Review. Stick and stay. We'll be right back on your screens.
News Review, and just to let you know, the AM show is proudly sponsored by Waylead Properties. Let me ask you this morning, are you thinking of a rewarding investment you can engage in? Waylead Company Limited is your preferred choice for such an investment. Waylead Company Limited is a real estate company with several developments to its credit in Accra. Invest in our new development, Willow Lane, where elegance meets tranquility in the heart of Accra. And guess what? We provide quality housing at an affordable cost and also with a flexible payment option. At Waylead Properties, we provide you with 24-hour security, reliable power supply, and other social amenities to make your stay memorable. So give us a call now. Note these numbers: 0240 111 119 or 0504 499 999. You can also visit us at www.waylead.org. And of course, we are leading the way into our big stories with our news review. Sweetie, who joins the conversation?
Vicky Bright is a lawyer and entrepreneur and former legal advisor to President John Agyekum Kufuor. She's in the studio with us this morning. Good morning, beautiful.
Good morning.
How are you? I'm fantastic. And you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Okay. Benjamin Akakpo, Why are you smiling so much this morning?
Should be cheap.
Okay.
But anyway, we'll take your quick thoughts, as always, before we get right into the papers. Any thoughts for us this morning?
Yeah, just the Pope, you know. Yeah, I think it was a weekend of a lot of sobriety and, you know, I'm not Catholic myself. I'm a Methodist and a born-again Christian. But I'd like to extend my deepest condolences to the 1.3 billion plus Catholics in the world. And I think the world has lost someone who emulated what Christianity should be about, you know, humility and love for our neighbors and caring about the poor and all the things that should matter to all of us as Christians. So I think that's the thought that's on my mind this morning.
I mean, we could go on and on about him. I was here on Saturday for the live
I watched that.
broadcast. But for me, one thing that stood out of everything you could have said about him, his humility.
Yes.
You know, he never took his salary.
Really?
Yeah, so even if he needed a shoe or something.
The whole time?
Yeah, I hear he was
wow.
apportioned about 340,000 euros a year. But he never took, he never drew on his salary. Always, you know,
and
trying
chose
to
to live in the
silly simple.
You know, not in the whole people.
Not in the people palace,
exactly.
but in the guest house.
Exactly, carried his own food every day and all the rest of it. So
I mean, we all could learn something.
yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
I was going to tempt you. My apologies. I was going to tempt you with something because I don't see it in the papers yet.
What's that?
You know, the Ghana Bar Association and
yes.
and everything in between. So some of it I have found interesting. I hear there's a bit of a rift between the lawyers about should we push for this? Should we not? Should we petition? Should we not? What do you think?
Well, look, I think we are in the middle of a constitutional process. So one should be a bit circumspect about what to, you know, agitate about and what not to agitate about. And I haven't seen, apparently they intend to actually send a petition to the president. So it will be interesting to see the contents of that petition. But if the argument is that in their view a prima facie case has not been established, then it begs the question as to what the function of the Council of State is. I mean, they are the ones constitutionally mandated. Nobody is pretending that Article 146 is perfect. It does need to be reviewed and amended, and we need more clarity in its operation. For example, there has to be some minimum threshold to determine what a prima facie case is.
Indeed.
So in the natural, I guess what we have now is just the natural sense of the word and the natural meaning of it. And the natural meaning of it is that, look, on the face of it, is there something to be looked into, to be investigated further? And I think the answer to that is yes, if what we are reading is indeed what is in the petition. So let's
Which
see.
some people may say does not suffice, but like you're saying, on the face of it.
On the face of it.
Are there questions to be answered?
And,
someone would say yes. Someone would say
Someone would say yes. And that's, you know, therein lies the problem. If we had some kind of guideline or a set of guidelines to say, look, if this and that are involved, then yes, you have to go this way. And if not, then you have to go that way. Then it would be more objective. But at the moment, it's a judgment call on right-thinking members of society. So we just have to respect
and
the
maybe
process.
my final take on this. It's interesting that it's coming mid-process. I mean, it's constitutional.
Yes.
It's been triggered.
Yes.
It is going on mid-process about whether it should be in camera or not, whether there should be an option. That doesn't exist in the Constitution. It states clearly what the process should be like. My interest, though, is this coming up at this time. I don't disagree that 146 may need some changes and other clauses in our Constitution. But I also wonder, the Ghana Bar Association, when other people have been in this same position, not necessarily the Chief Justice. Because if you go back to the history of the GBA, they were pretty vocal, not just on matters but matters of the law. When other people had, for good reason, I don't want to mention names, have been in the same position, Article 71 office holders, I've not heard them say anything. Is it just because this is the Chief Justice this time? I don't know. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, this is the problem. If you're going to behave or act in a certain way, then you have to be consistent, so that questions like these are not raised. And in, you know, if you do that, then every time you come out to speak, everybody sits up. So,
if it came down to it, would you support the call for the proceedings to be open for the public to follow publicly?
It's something that I haven't really kind of thought about deeply enough to speak about publicly. I need to reflect on it some more.
All right.
Some say it could open a can of worms.
Yes.
Well,
others say it could ensure fairness, but you see, the tricky bit is it could go either way.
Yes.
It's a real test of our democracy and how we navigate these waters to determine how successful we'll be in the near future.
Yes. And the thing is, when you have it out in public, it becomes like a show, you know. Everybody's tuning in and watching and commenting, and you know, everybody's comment, and it can get a little bit ugly. So, yeah.
Okay, let's jump right into the newspapers. I have the Daily Graphic. On the front page, Boko conflict is national wound. Let's treat it with urgency. That is the EUW Chancellor saying. Over 50,000 teachers receive promotions. Ken Ejapong urges amnesty for former party members. IMF chief praises Ghana's latest economic reform efforts. And I have let's do the Daily Graphic in 2 rounds. The first round, let's talk about the Boko conflict as a national wound briefly. And let's talk about Lumumba calling for overhaul of education towards New Africa. The renowned Pan-Africanist Professor Patrice Lumumba has called for a relook at Africa's educational system to ensure it builds a mentally conscious population ready to accelerate the development of the continent. You know, they say there's no free lunch, but I think as I'm growing, the better I understand what that means. The education system we have now was inherited from our colonial masters. It is imperative that we relook at it and create something that, you know, meets us as Africans at the point of our needs, not just continuing what they handed down to us. There's a reason they gave us this particular system. It's not the same as what they use up there. Let me just pause here and then add the 2 stories and we can discuss. NPP invites proposals for constitutional amendment, and the opposition New Patriotic Party has opened its doors to members and identifiable groups to make inputs into the party's constitutional amendment. And the party quotes, the party looks forward to receiving from its members proposals for constitutional reforms, adoption of which will result in the NPP having a revised constitution. So, if you have any ideas to share, they're welcoming it. CDD Ghana leads regional push to address foreign influence. And I'll end here. The Ghana Center for Democratic Development has established an international desk as part of efforts to monitor foreign influence and enhance Africa's voice in shaping global policy. Vicky, where should we start from? They're saying Boko is a national wound and we should treat it with urgency. Sometimes when I think about Boko, I wonder what will happen if the media, I'm not trying to be mischievous, but I wonder what will happen if we stop giving it media attention. What do you think would happen?
I think if it's not kept in the limelight, people may disassociate themselves from it. I think it is important. It is a national wound.
Yeah.
It hurts all of us. You know, one Ghanaian dies, that's one of our own.
Yeah.
And every single life is important. So, and it's important for us to live in harmony, as harmoniously as possible. We're all Ghanaians, and we are not really as tribalistic as some of our neighbors. And I think that's one of the strengths of this country. So we have to keep Boko in the news until it's resolved. And I'm an optimist. I'm the glass is half full kind of person. So I would really love to believe that one day, and hopefully very soon, it will be resolved, at least in a way, if not permanently, in a way that brings harmony and civility and avoids all these unnecessary deaths and damage to people's properties.
And on the call to overhaul Africa's education system, that call from Patrice Lumumba.
I totally agree with that. We're so far behind, and it's not helping us. It really isn't helping us. It is something that we have inherited, and you know, I remember when I, you know, went outside to study. I went to Wesley Girls High School.
Okay.
And I started lower 6 and then left and, you know, did the rest outside after the 81 coup. And when I got to my new school, I actually realized that I couldn't think. And that was a shock to me.
You couldn't think?
I couldn't think in the way that critical thinking, you know, that's what I mean. And I didn't actually realize that until I got there, because our education system is very formulaic. You chew, pour, pass, and forget. And of course,
rote learning.
Absolutely. And we all become brilliant at it. We collect our A's and 2-1s and first-class degrees and whatever. But critical thinking should really be the backbone of our system. And I think it should start right from the very early ages. Yes, we say that if you put it in Google now, is there critical thinking in Ghana? It will say yes, but actually there really, really isn't to the extent that it needs to be. And the example that I just gave you is not just me. I have friends who were like, oh, wow, yes, that happened to me too. So, I mean, we need to have a problem-solving approach to education so that we are encouraged to examine things, to think through problems and issues, to arrive at conclusions, rather than being told. In fact, some teachers don't even encourage you to ask questions. And they are very upset, especially in the younger, you know, the lower years of education. If you ask a question, they get very offended.
They think you're challenging them.
They think you're challenging them. And, you know, So I totally agree with it. We need to do it. And in fact, one of my children, when we first moved back home, had the same problem in school because one teacher was saying a tomato was a vegetable and he was saying no, it's a fruit. And you know, he had just come from England. He was like, no, it's a fruit, and he was punished because he kept insisting that it was not a vegetable. So we need to encourage children to challenge us. Look, in my law firm, I encourage the junior lawyers to challenge us. You know, like, what do you think about this? And so we need to foster more of that kind of thinking in our education to help us, because that's where the whole world is going. People are inventing things, people are doing huge things, and you know.
Perhaps if we adopted that approach, critical thinking, we wouldn't be so afraid of artificial intelligence, because then we find new innovative ways of solving the problems without saying that you copied it from the internet or something. I was privileged to help out in my auntie's school. She uses a different module, not the Ghana system. It's like a Montessori. They call it balanced literacy. And as young as 4 or 5, they're teaching these children critical thinking, problem-solving skills in mathematics,
fantastic.
and Ghanaians, you know, the average Ghanaian child in a Ghanaian school does not have such opportunities, you know. So I understand what you're saying. Ben?
I mean, this thing you're saying, I've heard so many times. And you see, it's not that those people, look how you turned out. It's not that those people are not able. In fact, a lot of them will then tell you that when they adapted to that system, whether in the UK, the US, France, or other countries, then they shot up to become the best in their class. A lot of the time. I don't know what your...
That's what happened to me.
You see? A lot of the time they'll tell you that, but the foundation was just rote. So they had to add the other bit about, you know, a sophisticated global way of thinking, so that you're not half-baked. You are not just, oh, chew, pour, pass, forget. There's more to you, critical, you know, analysis. There's a gentleman who worked around here. He's ended up in some, if I mentioned the part of the country, people would know so. But he went through a similar phase in his master's program. Now he's sorry. So there is some problem, because I've also schooled elsewhere, and it is true that here it's too rote. And if you do anything apart from, in fact, university here, there are some lecturers, if you don't regurgitate exactly what they've given you,
they will fail you.
Exactly. If you fall out of it, if you've done some research from somewhere, come and add it, you're in trouble.
Forget it, yes.
So that kind of thinking is a major problem, because then you don't even encourage people to read around and to challenge you. It's all about give me what I gave you. And how does anyone improve it?
Yeah, and it also does not bring the best out of you.
No.
I mean, I had a cousin, sadly of blessed memory now, but when he was here, you know, he went to a disco and all of that. When he was here, he wasn't really doing as well. And then he moved to the US. In fact, everybody, the whole family was a bit worried about him, you know, as far as his academics and things were. He was fine, but he was just a bit, you know, he just didn't conform to this whole formulaic way of doing things. In the end, the guy, you know, he graduated with a law and MBA combined degree from one of the best universities in the US. So that's, if he had stayed here, he wouldn't have done, So
yeah, we agree with what Patrice Lumumba is saying. We need to really look at it. And let's stay on the education bit for a second, because there's another story here about over 50,000 teachers receiving promotions. Up to 50,458 teachers out of the total 54,227 teachers who were successful in last year's aptitude test have been promoted, the Ghana National Association of Teachers has confirmed. What exactly goes into that aptitude test? I mean, it's good news that over 50,000 teachers are receiving promotions, but I'm tempted to say to what end? Yeah. Okay, so let me add one more story, and then we can continue the conversation. Did you want to say something about MPP's invites for proposals? Or should I just add Kennedy Japon's call for amnesty to that story, and then we can look at the NPP as a whole? So MP for Aguna West, no, the story doesn't start here. I think it was talking about all those who had left the party, including Alan Shermanting and Cynthia Morrison, should all be, should come back to the party. Do you think that that's what happened? Okay, the story is here, just a little bit of details in it. A leading member of the opposition New Patriotic Party, Ken Ohene Japon, has urged the party's leadership to grant a general amnesty to all party members who were dismissed or who left the party due to internal strife as part of the party's rebuilding exercise. And he's saying that if they don't do this, they will not win election 2028. So it's critical in their quest for winning back power in 2028. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I agree with that, but I mean, they need to do more than just that. But I do agree with that sentiment. Look, NPP, this is a time for deep humility and deep reflection. For it ought to be, anyway, by NPP. And there are too many levels of disconnection in the party. And so, you know, unity is always a good thing. And this is a call from one member of the party. It's not like a call from the party. So it's somebody's thinking, even though, albeit a leading member of the party. So it's not really MPP calling. It's one leading member of the party calling for it. So I think there's a distinction between that.
Yeah.
And for me, the levels of disconnection are, as I said, mainly two. Amongst the party members themselves, leadership and the members, and then with Ghanaians, you know, with Ghanaians. So whatever they can do to fix their own internal wranglings, I mean, in fact, you have to start from your home before you can. If you can't influence your own people internally, then certainly you can't influence, 15 million odd voters.
Do you think Dr. Bawumia's honesty, and he was saying that the reason that they failed in 2024 is because of high cost of living and e-levy? And many people have said that. He mentioned a number of things.
Arrogance of power.
But I'm just, many Ghanaians are saying that that's honesty that's unexpected from, well, it's unusual for someone to come out and say that indeed e-levy, high cost of living, you were in power. I mean, do you think that does anything to help them save face?
I mean, I think it's good that he said it, but really I'm not sure it will have any impact because, as you said, he had a front row seat in government. You know, so if you have a front row seat in government and you are the number 2 citizen and you're an economist, and for which reason
the economic whiz kid who was brought into,
then it's a little bit self-serving to say that. But you know, it's a good thing that is said.
Perhaps it's upon somber reflections. Now looking at the things from outside of power, perhaps it's giving him a fresh perspective on what the reality is. I remember last year, I kept saying to myself that perhaps Our leaders are operating a different reality from ours. You know, they kept saying that the economy is doing well, but it wasn't reflecting in, you know, the ordinary Ghanaian's pockets. They kept saying something, and then we were calling it gaslighting. So maybe, just maybe, it's because now that he's not in power, he's able to see things for what they really are.
Yeah, and if that's the case, it's fantastic. I mean, it's good. Because reflection is always a good thing. And, you know, I have a good friend who always says that there's nobody more sober and more friendly than a politician that's out of power. So, and I've found that to be
We need to put that on a quote card. Yeah.
Or maybe trying to get to power.
Because when you're out, they're like, oh, you know, model citizens.
Yeah.
Very nice, very accessible.
Yeah.
Forgetting that they kept someone waiting for 3 hours and walked straight past them saying, no, I'm going to Jubilee House, when the president hasn't called them at all.
You know something I find interesting?
So.
Even now, there are people, currently, there are people who tell me, oh, there were these politicians we used to speak to. Once they assume power, once they got certain ministerial or other positions, they lie, no cry,
yeah.
You know, and when they want power, they'll come. You've seen people with the spatula, banku, and they'll join you there, they'll eat with you, they'll play cards with you.
Yeah.
Once they secure that power, friendship, yamutu.
And I just don't understand that whole mindset, because the same people will be there when it's over. Yeah. I mean, power is not forever. You know, it's finite. Yes, so they'll get to, definitely. You will be out of power at some point. If you're not lucky, you'll even be reshuffled before the 4 years. So the maximum period you have at any given point in time is 4 years. So is it really worth antagonizing people? And I mean, I'm glad to say that I wasn't like that.
Yeah.
You know, the same friends I had are the same friends I have, and others I picked along the way. And I think it's all about character, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Who you are is who you are.
Kathleen Adi said, sorry, Ben, I just want to say,
go ahead.
He said that politicians think in 4 years. And every time stuff like this come up, I just go back to that statement, because indeed, they're thinking 4 years, election. It's never development, long term, like the next decade or two. What is the legacy? What are we doing right now that could possibly come back and bite us in the backside? Over to you.
It's interesting on the back of the Dr. Bawumia bit, because I reflect on, one, I have read Dennis Miracles Abwaji say that, you know, the former vice president was never in support of the e-levy. I mean, I cannot sit here, I don't know, but that's what he said. He was the main spokesperson for the campaign. So what if that were the case? He says the former president was never in support of the e-levy. So some of the things too may have been done. He didn't want it, but the system had to implement it. You remember the Kenoforiata saga. On the back of his latest comments, though, Dr. Manibuama, the defense minister, has said Dr. Bawumia is blaming everyone but himself. And in fact, Paul Gridco, who was their spokesperson for security and governance, he also says blaming others for the MPP's defeat is not accountability. How do you digest all of this? I mean, differing opinions, different thoughts, different angles.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. I mean, look, you have to accept some blame, because as I said, he had a front row seat. So you have to accept some blame. I do agree, though, that when you're in power, it's not all decisions by the executive that all members of the executive agree with. But there is something called collective cabinet responsibility.
Yeah.
So I think you can't, once the decision is taken, whether it's a majority decision, whether someone is doing it by diktat or whatever, once you all keep quiet and rally behind it, you have to just do the honorable thing and just accept that this is a decision of the government, you know. So.
Don't change the pronoun, it's we, not they.
It's we, exactly. It's collective responsibility.
Okay. Just one last story, and I'm done with the Daily Graphic. From cells to cultivation, adopting Traore's prison labor model to revitalize Ghana's economy. And I like it's actually an editorial, but I like what it's saying here. So Ghana stands at a crossroads, investing $1,200 annually into sustaining each prisoner, while grappling with soaring youth unemployment and a staggering $2.5 billion food import bill. Yet, buried within its prison walls lies an untapped economic force. And I think that juxtaposing this with what Ibrahim Traore is doing, quote, he says, from today, our prisoners will be working in our agricultural sector while their sentences are reduced. Our laws must represent African values. The African believes in redemption, I think. And that's what I believe he's trying to say here. You work for the land, we reduce your sentence. Probably, if you turn a new leaf, you can be reintegrated into society. And then we don't have to spend so much money in prisons and lives just being wasted over there. That's the last story I have.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective, actually.
Should we be adopting it?
It's not a bad thing. Yes, I think there's some argument in favor of that, because prison should be about punishment and about rehabilitation. So it should serve two purposes. Otherwise, we are failing as a society. And so, yes, the person is being punished, but if they can gain some skills, if they can also contribute to the economy and start feeling like they are not quote unquote worthless, that they have some value, I think, yeah, there's definitely
something in there.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, a human being, I always go back to that saying, every saint has a past and every sinner has a future. So you can never say, there are those who commit heinous crimes like some of these mass shootings in the US and others.
Yeah.
For those, you may be a bit more cautious, unless maybe over time they have displayed certain. But for some of those, we often throw in prison for stealing this and that. Those ones, I mean, if you could give them some skills, it makes sense. In fact, I don't know whether Brazil is still running that program, but they had a program where prisoners had to read books. And if they could read a book and do a proper analysis of it, and there would be an interview and they could speak about the contents of the book, they would reduce their sentence by a few days or something. So depending on how many books you could read in a year, you could reduce. And do you know what that was doing for them mentally?
Yes.
Stimulating their minds, how it would broaden their horizon.
Very good one.
Brazil had that. I don't know whether they still do, but
all we do here is
those
to
are
let
things
them clean our gutters and weed around. It's not enough. I don't think it's enough. That's human resource that could put to good use. Let's celebrate Ghana's under-15 girls because they won the CAF Africa.
See, I'm always rooting for the girls. But the boys
they won the CAF Africa Schools Football Championship. Congratulations to them. This is a big win for the country. We should be celebrating them. Of course, President John Dramani Mahama was there presenting the trophy to the winning team. Congratulations. That's it for the Daily Graphic.
Go girls.
Go girls. Should we get into your paper next?
Sure, yeah. So the first, I have the custodian, and Baumia salutes MPP polling station executives and foot soldiers, and Kodia cites arrogance of power and internal bickering. And then 4 parties to hit the streets over CJ suspension. The News Center, IMF chief praises Dr. Forson for economic reform efforts. Okoye report findings revealed. Revoked Tokonu suspension, GBA. And then the political parties demonstrating again against the suspension. And then Ghana feed. NDC has prepared petitioners for the removal of the EC boss. Nanabi alleges. Baumia, we had a solid record of achievements, but not everything went right. And then Baumia hailing the polling station executives and grassroots of the party again. Chancellor of UEW appeals for peace in Boko.
Yeah.
Those are the headlines
that
I have.
Maybe let's do them one by one. Any stories you'd like to get into from the news center?
Yes.
So you started with the news center, right?
Starting with
Would you
the
like to, Would you like to get into any story from there before you go to the other papers?
Yes, let me see what I'd like to. I think the same, yeah, because we've already talked about the Baumia story, arrogance of power. So maybe we should look at some of the other papers. And Boku here, IMF chief praises Forson for economic reforms.
Okoye
report findings.
That's maybe an interesting one.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
A bit of the details and then we can discuss.
Yes. So it's a very long one, so I'll just read the actual headings, main headings of the findings, which are about maybe 10 or so. Crushing economic hardship, e-levy, unpaid workers, timing of the fuel price hike, consequences of ignored warnings, internal disunity and public infighting, neglect of grassroots members, National Cathedral, and then the unsatisfactory anti-Galamsey fight. Religion and ethnicity didn't cause defeat, he said. So I think those were the main findings, really.
In fact, we heard Baumia say the same thing, that he's a Muslim and he beats, who was it he was comparing himself to? I think Reverend Ntim Fojo.
Yes.
He said he did better than him, even though he's a reverend minister and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah.
Yes,
those are the things we already talked about.
Yes. So, yes, I mean, these things definitely did contribute to the monumental defeat of MPP. And the unsatisfactory Galamsey fight, that was a big, big, big thing, especially when we learned that some political figures were involved in facilitating these things and just didn't care what anybody thought. You know, so e-levy, big thing. On the one hand, you say you are encouraging a digital economy. On the other hand, you're making it difficult. So it made it difficult for the ordinary person to use Momo. It was expensive. And expensive not just on one end, but every time you send the money, you keep paying. So the cumulative effect of it was quite crushing on Ghanaians. We have several fuel price increments and crushing economic hardship. And I think crushing is the word. People were really, really, really suffering. It affected people's standard of living. It affected, people were choosing whether to eat just one meal a day so their children could eat. Even the content of the food, totally not very nutritious. People were leaving their cars at home to take public transport because they just couldn't afford to fuel the cars. So people generally felt their standard of living go down, deteriorate quite severely. And sometimes you wondered how people actually lived. I remember one guy was being interviewed and he said he had 6 children and he said, what do? Do you know this whole famous quack, quack, quack? I wake up in the morning and I just do quack, quack, quack because he had 6 children to feed. Plus himself and his wife, that's 8 mouths to feed. And so he had to do his quack, quack, quack.
Do you think it's improved a little bit? I mean, I know it's still early days, but the IMF is praising Dr. Forson for
they are projecting, that's the other story here. They are projecting a 4% increase in, improvement in GDP, which will be phenomenal if we are able to achieve that against the backdrop of what's happening globally, generally. So
I don't know how often you interact with, ordinary people, but do you get a sense that the situation has changed? I mean, coming from where, some of the findings from the reports, the high cost of living and all that, do you think it's changed in any way at all?
Yeah, I do interact with everybody. I'm a very accessible person. I talk to market women, to everybody, taxi drivers. I just do that. Sometimes I just, go out and chat to people.
That's nice.
Just to have an idea of what's going on. And they are always very pleasantly surprised when I stop by to chat, So, yes, people are hopeful. Let's put it that way. It is early days, but there's hope. And that's one thing that we lost under the previous administration. I remember talking to young people and you would look in their eyes and there'll be no hope there. And that was a very painful thing to observe. As a mother, that was a very painful thing to observe. So what I'm actually quite buoyant about is the fact that there's now the restoration of that hope. So the rest of it will depend on the government, whether they are able to sustain that hope or whether gradually it fades away. But I'm hopeful that they will do their best to sustain it.
Are you similarly hopeful? The only bit I wanted to tackle there was Galamsey. You mentioned that the unsatisfactory fight back then. Do you find it satisfactory now or more satisfactory now?
I would say that they are seemingly, they are being, from what we can see, they are being relentless. They've changed, the major changes that the IGP made. the fact that it's back in the news every day again. We have all these documentaries by Rastas, and it's staying in the news. And I also have to commend the media for that, because it is an existential threat. I think we all agree on that. Nobody wants to be importing water in 12 years or whatever. And so it started well, but the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So it started well. As long as greed does not set in, we should be okay.
Yeah.
You know.
Another thing I find interesting is usually, well, let me just say, from the time that I started observing the political dispensation and how we do our politics really in this country, you see the launching of these initiatives at the tail end of the administration. We're seeing it earlier in this administration. I know this week alone, they're going to launch 3 initiatives. There's the Ejumara, there's feeding, school something feeding program. There are a number of them. I don't remember them all as I said right now. Yeah. Is that something to commend? You know, compared to the previous administrations where we are seeing launching initiatives at the tail end of the administration. And now this is like, we're still in the first year of this, this administration, and we are seeing a lot of initiatives being launched. We haven't yet clocked the 120 days even. Is that something that's something for the hope that you talk about?
Yes, I think so, because if it's launched at the beginning of the administration, it means that the government means business. They know that there's 4 years to judge them by.
Yeah.
If you do it towards the end, then there's no record to be judged. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
To be judged by. So I mean, that it's good that it's launched at the beginning, and let's see it being rolled out and see how it pans out. But if all these initiatives work out, then I think it would be really good.
That's it for me.
So I'm looking at those 3 initiatives now. Ejumara Mahama Care's National Apprenticeship programs. That's another thing sometimes that I look at. What's in a name? And I've said it here before. Sometimes we come and we just change names and tweak and twist and turn here and there, but hopefully we get what we're looking for.
Yes.
The last time we had a conversation on One Village, One Dam, and it was mind-blowing, the sort of, because the initial projection was that it would cost about, 200,000 Ghana cedis for one. In some instances per research and a report, it ended up being even upwards of 600,000 Ghana cedis. Multiply that by the 426 dams we're supposed to construct, and practically none of them is alive, so to speak, today. Imagine that's over 200, close to 300 million Ghana cedis.
Imagine what we can do
so sometimes,
with that. Yes, imagine what we can do with that. But I'm very passionate about the Mahama case. That's the sanitary pads for.
No.
Which one is this?
It's I think a medical aid for something.
Oh, the free.
Yeah, the free.
The kidney
and the rest.
Yes, I am passionate about that. But I'm also passionate about the free sanitary towels for young ladies. You know.
Yeah, I saw a comment, and I like going through social media comments, because sometimes they are the ones who are, experiencing things maybe that I don't see, And they're saying that we chastised the previous administration for free SHS. And you're comparing school fees with sanitary pads. So there was actually a video. He was holding one sanitary pad and said, weigh 17 cedis. It's weighing school fees. And I must say, what do you make of that? That comparison?
It's not about the cost. It's about dignity. And what price can you place on dignity? I'm a girl. I'm a woman. And, I mean, girls at that age are going through so much. And some of them it's about dignity, it's about, affecting their education, because this is something you have no control over. Every month it shows up. And if you're then forced to be at home for 3 to 5 days in that month, every single month, I mean, cumulatively, you're missing a lot of education hours.
Yeah.
So it's complicated reasoning, let me put it that way.
Okay.
To just look at it in that simplistic way. It's more than that.
Yeah.
It's about dignity.
If I may just add to it, I mean, I've read reports as well talking about the percentages. Girls across the country who would not go to school around that period, the loss of contact hours, the huge numbers who would not go to school when it's that time of the month because they simply don't have what it takes. But it's not only that. I think sometimes we lose track of the fact that governance is a continuum. Solving our problems, like in education, is a continuum. And it's not just about one thing. So free SHS, I have always said, is a wonderful thing. It's the implementation that was, in some cases, piss poor. So think about it this way. You have free education. Burkina Faso is doing something along those lines now. That is one step. You have good food, because you can't study well if you are not getting proper nutrition. If you're a girl and it's that time of the month and you don't have the right hygiene materials, you have, imagine putting all of them together, regardless of administration, MPP, NDC, but you come, you do some, you add. If we put them together, then you have that quality of life.
Absolutely.
You get it? But we tend to always, I did this one, I did that one. And we are so, they say proper leadership, when you are able to do stuff and not care who gets the credit.
Yes.
That is leadership. Unfortunately, our politicians, I zip my mouth before I say
because, I mean, in all reality, who's really going to be against free education for kids? Who really in their right thinking mind? Nobody is against it. It's in the how. Yeah, nobody is against that.
Then we have a few
let's quickly do these stories as well. The Ghanaian Times newspaper, localizing natural resources exploration management framework out soon. That's according to President Mahama. Grant amnesty to dismissed aggrieved NPP members. Kennedy Ejapon says so. I've heard talk in the past of, Alan Chemating and whatever, and some members of his movement for change said, we don't even want to come back. But, I mean, the party will definitely, the NPP will need a rebuild, a reboot.
Yes.
To be able to, get back to its glory days. Because where it's fallen now, that's quite a fall. But you also cannot, on the back of that, assume, because take yourself back to what? 2016, when now President Mahama lost, and the gap, 800,000 thereabouts, people felt, that was unprecedented. There's no coming back from that now. He clawed back 4 years later, and in 2024, he got the gong again. I'm not saying that will necessarily be the tale. There are different people and different strokes for different folks, but they would need quite a lot to come back. Ghana to use FLECT license by June 30, first in Africa. That's according to the Lands Minister. Philanthropist donates 200,000 Ghana cedis to Akosombo Dam flood victims. It's been a while since we spoke about that. In sports, Karim Zito chalks first win for Kotoko. And then Ghana under-15 girls crowned champions of 2025 African Schools Football Championship. I keep saying Ghana for, if you look at it critically, our women, our girls have been winning more laurels for us than the boys and the men. And yet, sometimes, I remember the club championships, where was it Hazaka's ladies, or one of those, I've forgotten. I think it may have been Hazaka's ladies. They went placed second and all of that, promises made and all that. Why do we do this? Because if the male side is not doing that well, we invest so much money in them. The female side, with the little we invest in them, they do a lot. Why can't we do more for them? So, Honorable Sports Minister Kofi Adams, among others, I think this is something you ought to be looking at. Incentivizing women's football, women's sports more. Because every time, every now and then, the women will go and win laurels for us. And the men, I'm not saying they are bad, but can we have some parity in what benefits we give them and all of that? I think it's something that's really lacking.
And the men also earn more money.
All of that is in there. All of that is in there.
For me, that's the most important bit.
Yeah.
It's the money, because the effort is the same.
Yeah.
And if they're making
more money, losing,
and this, I have to tie it to, so one of my learned professor friends, a former vice chancellor, sent this to me, and I don't know why he wants me to blaspheme. I mean, how can I be a fan of Manchester United? And he's telling me to give plaudits to Liverpool. You know, we are arch enemies in football, but I'm still going to go ahead and do it. So congratulations to Liverpool. They say you never walk alone, Prof? You and your team, you did it even before the season has ended. Congratulations to Liverpool, but Manchester United, we are the true Reds. We'll come back for you guys. We'll come back for you. So I think I'll just do one or two stories, the framework, and then Kennedy Ejapon's bit, and then we'll call it a wrap for the Ghanaian Times. So I'll go to page 12 before I come back to page 10. So the government in the next few months will develop an indigenous framework to manage natural resources exploration in the country, President Mahama has announced. This comes on the back of the government's decision not to renew Goldfields Damang Mines deal following the expiration of its 30-year lease. I heard there was a one-year thing. Speaking at a 4-day ministerial retreat in Adan on Thursday, President Mahama stressed the need for local participation in the managing of the country's natural resources to avoid capital flight. In President Mahama's view, such interventions are necessary to raise resources to develop mining communities and areas. I've always wondered why we do not ensure that we have more of a stake in critical aspects of our national life, including in telecommunications. Yes, we look at the AT thing and how it turned out, including in mining. Because when these outfits comes, let's face it, you have to be fair to them. They're also investing a lot of resources in the mining, and some things may not necessarily pan out. Billions and billions of dollars.
Yes.
So they will also want the lion's share. Are we also committed? Are we willing to invest more so that we can also get more? That's a part of the conversation. I'll wrap with the amnesty. A leading member of the NPP, Mr. Kennedy Ohene-Agyapong, has made a passionate appeal to the party's leadership to grant amnesty to all party members who were dismissed or left due to a number of internal grievances as part of the rebuilding exercise. Your reactions to these two stories?
Yes, no, the framework to manage the natural resources, I think with the Damang mine, they concluded with a 12-month
1 year.
Yeah, contract to, bring in some kind of transition. So that smooth transition, to ensure smooth transition back to the country. You're right when you say that there's a lot of investment that's put. I mean, mining is not for the faint-hearted. The rewards are huge, but then the upfront commitment is also, and ongoing, to be honest, commitments are also very, very high. And so they do, if the government is going to take over, then it's important that they think it through and not just rush into it. Capital flight, I think that's a very big thing in all these things. But at the same time, if someone has brought their money from outside, and especially a lot of these companies are listed in their own countries or on other foreign stock exchanges. So you have to, be able to repatriate some of the funds. The question is about the proportions. Is Ghana getting a fair deal? And often I don't think we feel that, not that we feel, we don't actually benefit as much as we should do. If we are the #1 gold producing country or close to it, then it should reflect in our economy, but it doesn't. So it doesn't, and then you also have all the things that we've just been talking about, Galamsey and all that off the back of it. Although of course that is more for the smaller scale miners, not the big boys. So I think yes, it will be interesting to see the details of the framework that they come up with, and to see whether it actually does what it's supposed to do, which is to manage not just gold fields but anything else that falls within all our natural resources as a nation. So I think that's.
Any thoughts?
No, let's go on.
Okay. So I don't always agree with his thinking, but we must celebrate our own, and this is a moment of pride as well. Minority Leader, I'm talking about Alexander Afenyomarkin, heads ECOWAS Parliament delegation to Parliamentary Dialogue Fora in Morocco. They say a win is a win. So the Minority Leader in Parliament, Alexander Kwamina Afenyomarkin, has led the ECOWAS Parliament delegation to the Crans-Montana and South-South Parliamentary Dialogue Fora in Casablanca and Rabat, Morocco, respectively. The forum, founded in 1986, is a globally recognized Swiss international non-governmental organization known for convening high-level government and business leaders to address critical economic, social, political, and security issues. Congratulations to him. We hope we get the boons of that as well.
Yeah, I mean, yes, congratulations to him. But for me, all these, some of these organizations, they talk too much, It's all about talking, and, delegations and talking. We are forever talking in Africa. So let's see what comes out of it. Because if this thing has been going on all these years, then why are we, talking about all these big issues affecting Africa?
In tree, it sounds even.
Yeah.
That's how we did now.
Exactly. And constitutionally. So let's hope that this time something comes out of it other than just the razzmatazz and all the aura and all the trips and people's per diems and I'm really tired of all that stuff. We
love it though. I think Ghanaians love the talk shop. When you open, all radio stations this morning, people are calling and giving you
mediocrity. We celebrate, yes.
Yeah, we like it. I did want to say on the amnesty, on the NPP bit, that never say never. On Kennedy, what's his name? Alan Sherman saying coming back.
Oh, right.
I think never say never,
this is what, his second time?
Yeah.
And Kufuor, after he went and came back once. This is his second.
That was where I was getting to. So never say never. Perhaps they would put aside their Fafranto and join the new enjoy Gugrudu.
Or maybe then it will not be a monarch butterfly, it will be a monarch elephant.
Well,
except that this time he's gone ahead and formed another party.
Well,
so other people are relying on him. So it's not just about him, is it? Because before it was just him. Now it's him plus all the people who have followed him. So, we'll see.
Foreign Ministry rolls out new chip-embedded passport today. A new chip-embedded polycarbonate passport with unique security features is to enhance border security, reduce identity fraud, and streamline international travels for Ghanaians, being rolled out by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I hear that is happening today. And then the Ghanaian publisher, Arrogance, Cost of Living sank NPP. That's according to Bawumia. Students endorse Obri Ejay as Ghana School of Law SRC president. 4 parties to demonstrate against CJ's suspension. Afeku fires up Tescon to lead NPP's comeback, and huge attendance at second Ofie Market Day. Sami Oku pledges loans, extension services. I've always celebrated this bit, the Ofie Market, and let's see just briefly on that. So it says, even a sudden afternoon rain couldn't dampen the vibrant spirit at Amanokrom on Saturday, April 26, 2025, as the second edition of the Ofie Market unfolded with even greater success than the first. Farmers, traders, and eager buyers braved the showers under colorful umbrellas, determined to seize the opportunities the market had come to represent. And I'm saying that if more MPs did this in their localities, it probably would be helpful. Just like the whole Kweu, kind of thing. You know what it does for the economy of Kweu within those few days? It's monstrous.
It's it can sustain some people for, maybe half of the year. But with this passport thing, does that mean that, obviously current passports are all still valid. And are we going to all be asked to come and replace our passports at some point, or are they going to wait for the expiry of everyone's passport and then the new one will be this new one?
I quote him here when he says, we are integrating our online passport application payments and appointment booking. And then he says what? Passport application tracking system had been linked to the NIA, would be introduced to keep applicants informed about the progress. Okay, I don't see the exact bit here, but I don't think it's going to be a recall of, just like with the black, what we called the black passport back then, the navy one, phased into the biometric one. So maybe once you get past this phase, then you go for the
I was thinking about the whole Ghana card thing, but there's a hint that we'll have to all go back and nobody wants to do that, to be honest.
Since we're ending in a bit, and there's someone in the studio who'll be doing push-ups for us in a bit, but chaotic 40th birthday to Esther Jima Tete of M Praise Incorporated. God honor and favor you exceptionally all the days of your life. Cheers. And that's Esther Jima Tete. A chaotic birthday to you. It's from all of us here at the Multimedia Group, especially Sami Odame and crew. Would you like to see some push-ups this morning, Sweetie Abochi?
Yes, I would. Right after I celebrate Mabel, one of... should I call her an executive assistant at Girl Get Up Africa? Mabel, yesterday was your birthday. I love you. I celebrate you. I'll get you ice cream when I see you. Mr. Abdullahi, how are you this morning?
No, the agenda you are planning this morning.
Mr. Abdullahi.
He would do as many push-ups as his age. And the man is 54. So if
Charlie.
He has to do 54 push-ups this morning.
Yes?
Right before the camera. Let's go.
Muftan Abdullahi, how can you bring us sports and not give us some push-ups? How are you this morning? What should we expect? I know you and our middle is fine. It's not. It's okay.
I said the middle is fine, but the
distance is far. But you know what? Before I know you'll definitely look at that final Clásico, right?
Yeah.
Barcelona,
Yes.
Real Madrid,
Really, yes.
Copa del Rey.
Yes.
But those 3 red cards and how it's spun the game, like necessary. I mean.
It has always been the drama surrounding matches involving Barcelona.
No, but you know the referee, this specific referee,
yes,
there had been protests by Madrid about him.
Madrid refused to go for the pre-match press conference, the mandatory training sessions before the final. They refused to do all those.
Yeah, they did.
It was a protest. But still, the president came out and said they will play. And they went and played, and they lost nicely. So,
would you say the referee mafiaed them?
I don't know. I don't know if the referee mafiaed them, but there was a certain penalty I think Barcelona should have gotten. That
the Rafinha one?
No. Yeah, it was the Rafinha one on, what's the name of this Sierra Leonean who plays for Germany? Antonio Rudiger. It was a definite penalty for me, but the referee played on, and they played, and the second one.
I think Ben should join you for sports this morning. But thank you so much, Vicky Bright. Vicky, hold on a second. We want to thank Vicky Bright. She's a lawyer, entrepreneur, and former legal aide to former President John Ajay Kunkufo. Thank you for coming. And Loretta is saying happy birthday to Mrs. Otu. She says, have a good one. You are my sweet girl. Happy birthday. And when we return from that break, Mufta Nabila Abdullahi and Benjamin Akakbo will be serving you sports.
Please, a slight correction. Her name is not Loretta. You know, for her, it's Loretta.
Loretta. Stick and say. Sports is coming right up next.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to AM Sports. Here with me, Mufta Nabila Abdullahi, and the Ghana Olympic Committee. They have a new president, Richard Akpokhavi. He polled 44 out of the 63 delegates who voted on Saturday to elect the new leadership of the Olympic Committee. His opponent, Mike Agri, he got 19 votes. My colleague, Victor Achutomakulu, was Joy Sports representative at this year's Ghana Olympic Committee elections and has details in this report.
Saturday's victory was a remarkable turnaround for Akpokhavi, who 4 years ago missed out on the presidency by 7 votes. Speaking to the press, Akpokhavi shared what his priorities will be.
Athlete empowerment, welfare of athletes is important. The athletes have no voice as of now in our governance structure. This cannot go on. It must change. The athletes must be heard. Their voices must be heard at Congress, on the executive board, and at committees. We are here because of the athletes. They must be heard. Secondly, gender. The women must be empowered, must build their capacity so that there will be many more women involved in decision taking as well. And then, one thing which is very important is that there are too many disputes in sports, too many divisions. We need to work as one. We need to work as one. We have one GOC team, several players, but one GOC team. We must focus on building that GOC team so that Ghanaians will support us. Right now, if we are not united, we can't go to any body, any institution, any corporate body and ask for money because they read all kinds of stories in the paper. So we must get united and build structures in our concern so that disputes will be resolved within the sporting fraternity. Build structures that we can resolve through ADR and not go to court and so many cases in court and we are not seeing anything, beneficial to the sports disciplines.
Akpokhavi will be assisted by baseball president Enes Danso, who is now the 3rd vice president of the Ghana Olympic Committee after beating Mohamed Mahadi by 43 to 19 votes. He joins Malco Afajinu and Frederick Otulati, the 1st and 2nd vice presidents, as Akpokhavi's deputies. There was disappointment for the Ghana Football Association's General Secretary, Prosper Harrisonado, who missed out on the GOC board as George Lamte, Delphina Quay, Kamal Sule, Richmond Kwaku, and George Tete all secured slots on the newly constituted 5-member board. Meanwhile, Ghana Swimming General Secretary Mohamed Muniru has also been elected as the new GOC General Secretary, beating cycling president Mohamed Shanoon by just 3 votes. There was another slim win for badminton president Evans Yeboah, who is now the treasurer of the GOC after winning by a 3 votes margin. He pulled 30 votes to win ahead of Tennis Federation boss Isaac Abuajidua. He'll be assisted by Edward Nilante Bannerman. Meanwhile, Sports Minister Kofi Adams, who graced the occasion, charged the new leadership to serve with diligence.
President, elections are over. And what is now is leadership. And so, as much as possible, let's try and be blind to who said what and didn't say what in the course of the journey towards this point. Sports, and for that matter, Olympic and non-Olympic sport is what should be the order of the day. And the young ones, especially the grassroots. As I listened to your story, you told us where you began from. We want the younger ones who are at the stage where you began from to also get that opportunity.
The president of the Ghana Football Association, Kurt Okreku, has been appointed the second vice president of the Confederation of African Football. His nomination to become the second vice president of the continent's governing body was confirmed during an executive committee meeting in Accra on Saturday. My colleague Abdulrazak Musbahu was there and has details in this report.
Following the CAF Executive Committee meeting in Accra earlier on Saturday, Ghana Football Association President Kurt Okreku was unveiled as the newly appointed second vice president of the Confederation of African Football. His appointment was announced by CAF President Dr. Patrice Motsepe during a press conference at the Kempinski Gold Coast Hotel.
And our second vice president is homegrown. One of our most outstanding and has made enormous contribution to football in Ghana and on the African continent. And we are so proud that, when I arrived here, Ghana didn't have a vice president. When I'm leaving here, Ghana has a second vice president. Our brother Kurt, who's president of football here.
Mr. Kurt Okreku, who was elected unopposed onto the CAF Executive Committee in March, succeeds Ahmed Yahya and becomes the second Ghanaian after Kwesi Nyantakyi to rise to the prestigious position within Africa's football governing body. He joins Morocco's Fawzi Legia, who has been appointed as first vice president, replacing Senegal FA president Augustin Senghor. Gabon's Pierre Alain will serve as third vice president, while DR Congo's Bestine Kazadi and Mozambique's Faisal Sidat have been named as fourth and fifth vice presidents, respectively.
What I also like is we are also sending a message to the other countries in Africa that are Portuguese-speaking or Spanish-speaking that the beauty of African football is our diversity that enriches us. We are all Arabs. We all speak Swahili. We all speak, what is it, Wolof? Wolof. We all speak Wolof. We all speak all of the beautiful languages. We are all all the races, different racial backgrounds and ethnic backgrounds. That's the beauty, and that's what enriches us. And we embrace and develop it. And our commitment to unity and cooperation is enormous. And that's the legacy we want to leave for our children. And we are doing this through football and work together with everybody else.
Meanwhile, reacting to the recent spate of violence in football, the CAF president reaffirmed his commitment to addressing the issue, emphasizing that any injury, let alone a death at a stadium, is deeply unacceptable.
We are steadfastly committed to ensuring that stadiums are safe and are places where our football spectators and fans and supporters can feel comfortable and in an environment of safety, including health. And part of what we're doing is to look at what we call best practices. Because to have a single fan injured at a stadium is something that we do not want to experience under any circumstances. And worse still, to have a single fan at the stadium lose their lives is something that we can never take enough precautionary measures.
They further revealed that CAF is undertaking a comprehensive review of international best practices aimed at improving stadium safety across Africa.
The starting point is to look at what other countries are doing and where and in which stadiums and in which environments have the most safe environment being created for the spectators. So there's an ongoing process, and I think in CAF, at the Secretariat, there's engagement and an assessment to see what's happening in Europe and to see what's happening in other parts of the world. But the determination and the commitment is very deep and very steadfast.
CAF's new measures are expected to build on and enhance existing protocols established by FIFA and national football associations, with a strong focus on preventing future tragedies and restoring full confidence among fans attending matches. For Joy Sports, Razak Musbah.
In Ghana, under 15 girls won the CAF under 15 schools championship hosted by the country at the University of Ghana Stadium. They defeated Uganda by 2-0. Meanwhile, for the boys division, the boys under 15 team, they finished third after also coming from behind to win their game by 2-1 against Uganda as well. For the winners, which is the girls division, Ghana is walking away with $300,000 as prize money for winning the competition, whilst the boys, for placing third, will get $150,000.
The midfield general for Ghana doesn't her way through this red set. This is a big opportunity. Bente, are you seeing? What a strike for Ghana! Bring it on! And it's the lady dictation, Belinda Bente! And the host Nelson Jubilee. The stands absolutely crazy.
Ashaku did the job, all the job, and making sure Bente got the necessary pass, and Bente being clever as well, also very timeous of how she was going to shoot, got the angle very right, put it there, one ahead of Uganda.
What you've got just to watch that again. Watch it.
Like I said, Shiaku did all the job, you know, fake like she was going on attack, brought it back, a very good pass to Bente. Good control.
Ghana trying to chase it. Daniel Abbas has it. She's driving for it. Daniel Abbas! And it's 2 for Ghana. Bring it on, Accra. Bring it on. The entire leg on. Ghana's party cannot be halted by Uganda. Oh, jittery moment for the Ugandan defense. And Ghana's leading maxwoman have just passed on it.
Of course, that was a mistake from a defender, but what Abbas did intelligently by keeping her composure, getting into the box probably at the right time, and she put the ball at the right place.
Just
that was a good one.
State proud, making Africa proud. She joins her teammates, and ladies and gentlemen, now the moment we have been waiting for. We will ask Tanzania and Ghana to join in as we celebrate your champions. It has been an amazing addition to the Africa Schools Football Championship. Congratulations, Ghana.
Let me just bring you a quick wrap-up results of Ghana Premier League matches that were played. Kumasi Asante Kotoko secured a 1-0 win over Ediana Stars. The first game for Abdul Karim Zito after taking over from Prosper Nathel Ogum, and that result meant that the Porcupine Warriors ended their 4 games winless run. And also we have Vision FC also winning by 2-0 against Bibiani Gold Stars. So Kotoko are now just 3 points behind the league leaders, and also Kerala United, they lost 1-2 to Dreams FC. Brekum Chelsea were at home and they won 1-0 against Nations FC. Samatex won 3-0 against Basaka Holy Stars, and Legon Cities also lost 1-0 to Heart of Lions. So these were the results of matches in the Ghana Premier League. And also Manchester City, they are in the final of the FA Cup after defeating Nottingham Forest. They will come up against Crystal Palace, who won their game on Saturday against Aston Villa. And tomorrow and Wednesday, the Joy Sports UEFA Champions League Pub Series is back, and we are taking you to Palms by Eagles Hotel, formerly known as Holiday Inn Hotel. That is where we'll be bringing you the first semi-final match of the UEFA Champions League. It is Arsenal who are in action in this contest against Paris Saint-Germain, and we're taking you to Palms by Eagles, formerly known as Holiday Inn Hotel. So do join us there as we bring you commentary of the game between Arsenal and Paris Saint-Germain. And also on Wednesday, we'll be going to exhibition inside Osu, inside Dansoman. Dansoman, yes, exhibition is inside Dansoman, not Osu. That's where we'll be taking you to for the game between Barcelona and Inter Milan. We're going to HR Residence, Dansoman exhibition. So this is where we'll bring you the match between Barcelona and Inter Milan. But don't forget to join us tomorrow for the first semi-final match, Arsenal versus PSG at Palms by Eagles, formerly known as Holiday Inn Hotel. We appreciate you always making sure that the Joy Sports UCL series is a success. This will wrap up sports here on the AM show. Head on to myjoyonline.com and read some more sports stories.
Our big story segment on the AM show. But before we get into it, a gentle reminder that the AM show is sponsored by Waylead Properties, providing you quality housing at an affordable cost and with flexible payment options. Now, another thing you should take note of before we get into our stories. Joy News, in partnership with an amalgam of professional bodies, proudly presents the next edition of the Public Speaker Series. Today, the 28th of April 2025 at exactly 6:30 p.m. live on this channel, the Joy News channel. You want to join keynote speaker David Ofosudote, senior partner at AB and David Africa, and other thought leaders, professionals and change makers for a powerful national conversation. The theme is Transforming Ghana's Economy. Time for a mindset revolution. Don't miss this powerful national conversation. You want to be part of the change. Ben, what's on our table this morning?
Well, we continue our conversation on the suspension of Chief Justice Gertrude Torkornoo, and Joy News checks reveals some members of the Ghana Bar Association want the leadership to write to the president asking for a revocation of the suspension of the CJ. There are so many dynamics because apparently there are claims that some things that have been said are not reflective of the whole body. Others are saying this is the path that must be charted. Well, our guests join us this morning. They are all lawyers and will be getting their take. Christian Mam Hesse is a lawyer. He joins the conversation. We also have Andrews Ejapa Mercer. He's a lawyer and former legislator for 2nd D, also a former minister for tourism, former deputy minister, I should say, and a former deputy minister for energy as well. Both of them join the conversation for starters. Gentlemen, a very good morning to you.
Morning.
Honorable Mercer, is that you?
Yes, Mercer here.
All right. Can I hear from Mr. Hesse? Mr. Hesse, can you hear me? If you can, please unmute. All right. Let's start with Mr. Mercer on this beat. So Article 146 has been triggered. The processes have continued. But just give us your overarching view of happenings up to this point before we get into the substantive matter, constitutionally, I mean.
Good
Mr.
morning,
Mercer?
yeah. Well, let me say good morning to your cherished viewers, those who are watching us on social media platforms. I guess my views have been made, quite public. I initially, in spite of all the commentary that taking place during the election, I was of the view that if a process of this nature has been triggered, it's important for us to allow the processes to evolve. Okay, so that we can get to the bottom of it with respect to substantive allegations that have been made, whether indeed they can be proven or otherwise.
Right.
But subsequently, comments from some political actors, especially National Communications Director of the NDC and Sempa, one of your preferred stations.
Are you speaking of Sami Jemfi? Are you speaking of Sami Jemfi? Okay. What did he say?
And then immediately thereafter, I saw a post by Honorable former Deputy Attorney General Asuma Badapa. Because at all times, material, I had not seen the petition. I'm sure that many of us haven't seen it. And so sometime last week, Tuesday or Wednesday, when it became public.
Right.
Having read the petition, the responses that the Chief Justice offered to the President and the Council of State, I do not think that they, in good conscience, with all due respect to them, could arrive at the conclusion that they did, that there was a prima facie issue that the Chief Justice had to then be called upon to assess.
We are losing you a bit. The connection seems to be a bit. Are you on the move?
Yes, I am. I just dropped off my kids at school, so I'm driving.
Okay. Could you do us the favor? We want you alive. Could you just park for a bit?
Yes, sure. All
yes.
right, I'm looking for a convenient place. Exactly that.
Okay. All right. So while you do that, let's also bring in lawyer Hesse, and then we'll continue the conversation respectfully. So, lawyer Hesse, can you hear us now?
I can hear you.
All right. You'd have to speak up a bit, sweetie.
Yes, there's
yes,
a new...
I can hear you.
Right. Thank you for joining us. Feel free to give us your initial comments, but there's a new angle to this whole discussion on the suspension of the Chief Justice. The Ghana Bar Association have weighed in on the conversation. I want to know what you make of that before we get incisive with the details.
Yes, thanks for having me, and good morning to your viewers or listeners alike. I believe it is a call more precisely on morality rather than duty of the law. The reason I say call on morality is it is an appeal to the president, and even though I am a lawyer, I would not say I am speaking on behalf of the bar as a PR for the bar, but by way of education and of all that is panning out. I see it as that because if you look at Article 146, there's nothing untoward that the president has done, or there is no breach of any of the provisions as of now. But in looking at the bigger picture, preferably the bar is of the opinion that putting in a warrant of suspension of the CJ it's premature, and more precisely, it should be the exercise of an option that should have come forth as a result of a very supervening offense, a very serious offense that needs not to be hidden in the confines of just a petition, but where such stated misbehavior is so known. From my deduction as well, it feels that it is lowering the threshold of the removal of a CJ, especially where we don't have established procedures the lame procedures as provided in Article 146, and the learned retired jurist in this case of Frank Adjechum elucidated and indicated that it is very important for the Constitutional Review Committee, or better still, through legislation by Parliament, to have an established procedures in dealing with it. So that if you are looking at Article 14610, where the CJ has been suspended through the warrant, just as I said, it is the belief that the threshold is watered down, and as purposive interpreters of the Constitution, one would say, is this the reason the framers of the Constitution put behind it? And we call it the objective test. And in running the objective test with the subjective test, so that the context and test of the Constitution is brought alive, the provisions will such a removal mean what indeed the framers of the Constitution envisaged? The question is one that only a court of competent jurisdiction could answer. And while that vacuum remains, the GBA, in my respective knowledge, could only admonish on the president to rescind that decision and allow for other processes invoked to carry out with what we are seeing.
Right. I get that point about it's just an appeal, you know. But I do want to understand, help me reconcile this. I hear talk about it's never been done before. In fact, some people, Professor Kukwa Asare, for example, is criticizing the GBA that they finally found their voice. I want to understand how, first, there's a statement saying that we should respect the rule of law. In fact, I just want to read a quote from here. It says, while the GBA recognizes the constitutional prescriptions for the removal of the Chief Justice, and mindful of the fact that presently the entire matter is sub judice, it is the hope and belief of the GBA that the actors involved will have the time-tested tenets of the rule of law as their guiding principles. And then, less than a week later, we are hearing that some members of the GBA are unhappy, displeased with this call, this statement, and they're asking that they should revoke the suspension of the GBA. How do you reconcile all these things that the GBA has become, is at the center of?
I mean, for me, the Bar Association of any country should always stand in the forefront of promoting and educating the masses as far as the legal framework is concerned, because we live in a rule-based order. The GBA should be critiquing and be putting papers of intelligentsia out as and when need be. In this situation, the milieu as we find ourselves in has been one of talkative, where commentaries are being run left, right, center. Commentaries are being run left, right, center.
We are trying to, the connection is bad. So Ben, perhaps we can go to Mesa and then we can reconnect with Mr. Malam.
Hey, Japa Mesa, have you been able to park now?
Yes, I did for a long while.
Oh, our apologies.
Yeah.
We want to be sure you are safe, so please bear with us. We want to be sure you are safe as well. So you were giving your view, initial thoughts on the matter, and then we can get into the purported, wading of the GBA into the fray.
All right. So in brief, all I will say is that in view of all the matters that have come to our attention, that have come into the public domain, one cannot but draw a conclusion to the effect that this was premeditated, orchestrated right from the very beginning to remove the Chief Justice. That is the object of what the NDC government of Mr. Mahama is doing.
I see. Going back to that question of the threshold, the minimum threshold that must be met, has it got to the point where we must look at Article 146 in the Constitution in looking at everything else when it comes to reviewing the 1992 Constitution?
I suppose that we've gotten to that point. Indeed, and in fact, it's not become an issue because nobody has attempted under the Fourth Republican dispensation to remove the Chief Justice.
But there have been petitions.
Say it again?
There have been many petitions against, a number of them.
That the safeguards in the Constitution itself, if this present president and the Council of State were minded to apply it, wouldn't get to this point. Because unlike in the situation of other constitutional bodies or heads of other constitutional bodies, where the president acts as, if you like, a conveyor belt, in this case, for the removal of the Chief Justice, the president and the Council of State plays an active role in the process. So that active role in itself is intended to serve as a seed where they make a determination at that point whether there is any basis for a full-blown investigation. And I'm saying that if the president and the Council of State were minded to do what it is the Constitution enjoined them to do, we would not get to this point. And so, yes, there may have been petitions in the past, but previous presidents have acted in consonance with the law and have provided a requisite threshold to ensure that we do not get to this point where the Chief Justice is almost on the verge of being.
Well, just to interject, the threshold, I mean, there's no clarity there as far as the Constitution is concerned, or concerned. But if we look at it this way, if I may, Georgina Wood, there were petitions, at least one petition against Sophia Kufu. There was a petition. Justice Enin Yabwa, there was a petition. In fact, when it comes to Gertrude Tokono, there was a petition under Akufo-Addo. It apparently did not meet the prima facie requirements, and now there are more petitions against her, 5 per the last count. If you add the last one, which did not meet, that would be 6 against her. The president, per the Constitution, is only a fan belt, is he not?
Not at all. When it comes to the Chief Justice, the president is not. The president ought to act in consonance with the Council of State to make that determination.
It says that he's supposed to get...
There's a clear distinction. And so the references to all the previous petitions against previous Chief Justices that you referred to, the President and the Council of State provided the requisite checks to ensure that this serious matter of removing the Chief Justice was dealt at that point to establish whether indeed there was a need to proceed to the second step that Mr. Mahama has proceeded to. And they all came to the conclusion that based on the responses that the previous Chief Justices had provided, there was no basis for this inquisitorial process to commence. That's the point that I'm making.
All right. So I always like to go back to the Constitution just for the sake of clarity. It says if the president receives a petition for the removal of a justice of a superior court other than the Chief Justice or for the removal of the chairman, he shall refer the petition to the Chief Justice, who shall determine whether there's a prima facie case. However, where the Chief Justice, I want to get to the relevant point, when the petition, that is 146, where the petition is for the removal of the Chief Justice, the president shall, acting in consultation with the Council of State, appoint, let me finish. The president shall, acting in consultation with the Council of State, appoint a committee. That is where they are coming together to appoint a committee consisting of 2 justices of the Supreme Court, one of whom shall be appointed chairman by the president, and 3 other persons, like we've seen that list now, who are not members of the Council of State, nor members of Parliament, nor others. And then even in terms of the Council of State, it says where the Chief Justice decides that there is a prima facie case. That's on the other end, so not referring to the Chief Justice. Where exactly has the president erred in this whole bit? Where has he erred?
I'm saying to you that the president, in acting in consultation with the Council of State, wants to establish a prima facie. Okay? That is not a passive role, it's an active role. And if a prima facie is established, then he proceeds to do the setting up of the committee. I'm saying that, hold on, I'm saying that is distinct, separate from the process where the president, on receipt of a petition for other justices of the Superior Court, forward saying to the Chief Justice, for the Chief Justice to make a prima facie decision.
Right.
The president does not play any role when it comes to the determination of justices of the Superior Court. But when it comes to the justice of the Chief Justice, the president plays an active role together with the Council of State.
Clarify for me what this active role is. As far as my reading is concerned, it's the Council of State that determines whether there's a prima facie case. Does the president in any way participate in this process in determining whether there's a prima facie case? Does he?
But what provision are you reading?
I mean, I just read 1466. And I'm saying that in respect of the matter being conveyed to the Council of State for some determination, I'm asking you, is there any point where the president himself or herself, in this case himself, participates in the determination of whether there's a prima facie case or not?
But I'm saying to you that the president, in consultation with the Council of State, is active. It's not passive.
So you're saying that the president is...
The president in consultation with the Council of State, and I've said to you that when it comes to the Chief Justice, again, then made provision for the prima facie to be established, because in 1466, when it comes to the Chief Justice, unlike other Superior Court justices, there is no requirement for establishment of a prima facie case. But the Supreme Court had expanded this provision to say that it is unfair when it comes to the Chief Justice not to have a prima facie determination. And so that determination, I'm saying, is done by the president in consultation with the Council of State. That's the point that I'm making.
Are you suggesting, and I'll go back to Sweetie shortly, 2 things. Are you suggesting that in the previous petition brought by Professor Kweku Asare, for example, former President Akufo-Addo had an opinion on the matter which he exercised? And
but you saw the letter that the president issued.
What?
You saw the president's statement on Kweku Asare petition against the Chief Justice.
I did. I'm asking you a question, though. Are you suggesting that the president's personal opinion was involved in that?
What personal opinion?
Personal opinion on the matter. You say the president works in conjunction with the Council of State.
But how do you expect them to issue an opinion in public, or what?
I don't think you're getting the thrust of my question. Well, I am saying, is there any point where the president's opinion is factored into the determination of a prima facie case, apart from with the Council of State?
But if the two are working in consultation with, or the president is working in consultation with the Chief Justice, his view is irrelevant.
I see.
That's what makes this particular instance nothing but political.
Okay. So,
because, look, people have made references to 296 and the exercise of discretionary power. 296 is clear on how that power is exercised.
It is? Because when I read 296, you go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
That the exercise of discretionary power shall not be arbitrary, capricious, or biased, whether by resentment, prejudice, or personal dislike, and shall be in accordance with due process of law. Now, the point that we're making is that the president is exercising the discretion to even suspend the Chief Justice, did not follow this constitutional injunction.
How can you prove that? 296 is pretty nebulous on that matter. What if we say there's no... Okay, so let me explain myself. If 146 were to be Andrew Sejapa Mesa, let me explain myself and then you can respond. If 146 does not meet the certain threshold that you speak of, where we should have a threshold for even bringing up such cases, how can you then tell me that 296 is clear enough when it talks about discretionary power not being biased and all that? By whose standard? What standard is that?
That you are not listening, whether deliberate or otherwise.
Well, tell me again then.
Please, I'm saying to you that the 146 provision is a two-step provision. It's a two-step process. First step introduced by Ajetu, which says that before a committee is established,
right,
the president, in consultation with the Council of State, must first establish a prima facie case. I'm saying to you that it was as a result of this that the Chief Justice requested for a copy of the petition and subsequently submitted her responses to the president, who then forwarded it to the Council of State. I'm saying that that process itself, if it was not actuated by political consideration, would not have led to the second step of the committee set. That's the point that I'm making. Because that process itself is intended to ensure that frivolous applications or petitions do not cross the premier party threshold into the setting up of the committee. That is how the Constitution has designed that process to be. Now, for it to be referred to the committee and the president proceeding to suspend the Chief Justice, I'm saying that it was actuated by nothing other than politics. The president was biased. His previous comment on the removal of the Chief Justice is obvious, is in public domain. His party chairman, his deputy general secretary have all made comments that suggest that the NDC intends to remove the Chief Justice, and that's exactly what they are carrying through. So the comment of the statement by the Ghana Bar Association becomes relevant, that you may be acting according to the letter of 146. But bear in mind that the constitutional premise or the premise of our Constitution intended that when you are interpreting or applying the Constitution, you don't look at only the letter, but also the spirit of the Constitution.
Mr. Andre Japamesa, I want to go back to Mr. Hersey in a bit, but help me understand where the intersection is between what the GBA leadership said a week ago and the comments coming in from some members who are saying they are going to call on the president to revoke the suspension of the Chief Justice.
And there's not some members who are calling on, who are making comments.
Is it is it the association, the Ghana Bar Association proper?
There was a media conference of the Ghana Bar held on Saturday.
Yes.
Where the statement that the Ghana Bar Association had issued earlier came up for discussion. And the membership resolved that it wasn't enough. The president had taken a step that put the entire judiciary at risk, in danger. If we do not act decisively, we're going to have a country that had the judiciary that was working at the whims and caprices of political actors. And so that resolution has been passed, calling on the president to abide by the Constitution to the extent that his action in suspending the Chief Justice is clearly inconsistent with the provisions of Article 296, to go ahead and revoke that suspension in accordance with Article 146(11).
My apologies for coming in here. Just clarity. Did you just say that the members resolved to do this?
Yeah, there was a resolution that I wasn't there. But I'm told that the Bar Association passed a resolution.
I see. Who told you this? I mean, can you share?
It's all about social media.
Okay, that's precisely why I've seen it, and I've seen something shared by some lawyer in respect of this. That's my curiosity, because just this morning, for further clarity, I just interacted with our court correspondent And there was a further interaction with the PRO of the Ghana Bar Association. I'm talking about Xavier Kuje Esquire, who is a PRO. And he says there was no such resolution. So that's why I'm questioning what exactly... have you seen this resolution?
Hold on. Your producer who called me. I told your producer I wasn't at the event.
Right.
And he confirmed that he has also spoken to lawyers who were present, who confirmed that the resolution was actually passed.
Okay. So, and granted, you were not there. I can't hold you to what happened there. You were told.
I was taking you tour on with Dr. Bamia in Western Region.
Right. My producer says in engaging you, though, he didn't say that the resolution had been passed. But let's look at it from this way. If the PRO of the Ghana, okay, let's go past that. Let's go past that. Right. Let's go past that.
Now I want to know
if the PRO of the GBA.
Clarify for me if Eko is the one who told you that.
Yes, he is telling me that.
Okay, all right. Then I'm not going to proceed with this conversation. Okay.
Right. Okay. So that is Ejapa Mesa, Andres Ejapa Mesa. That's an interesting tilt on the conversation because he insists that something was said. And of course, my producer also says he never said that to him. But that's an interesting bit because there has been this resolution on social media. You may have read it. And claiming that there was some resolution by members of the Ghana Bar Association at that conference that, these actions should be truncated. There should be a suspension of the Chief Justice. But in our interaction, as confirmed by our court correspondent this morning, I just don't want to put his name out there. In fact, I've been engaging him. We did that this very morning. And Xavier Kuje, who is PRO of the Ghana Bar Association, says there was no such resolution. So then that leaves all of this in some limbo. But what's interesting, sweetie, is that you then have a reaction of someone who has actually put in a petition before against suspended Chief Justice Tokonu. My apologies, suspended Chief Justice Tokonu. That is Professor Kweku Asare, who has quite a number of things to say. He says that less than a week after calling for the rule of law to prevail, the GBA has reversed course, now urging the president to revoke the suspension of the Chief Justice. And he's basing his point on that same social media interaction. He says, it's good the GBA has finally found its voice. He was writing on X. But then he enumerates a number of matters that he feels still hold the feet of the Chief Justice to the fire of accountability. It's interesting, isn't it? Have they resolved? Have they not resolved? What is the situation? If the PRO of the GBA tells me there's no such resolution, of course, I'll take it.
Yeah, because that's the PRO for the bar, which is why I started by asking him comments from members of the GBA. But we still have Christian Malamhesi with us. You've been following the conversation to this point, and I know you wanted to also elucidate the significance of GBA statements and all, but we lost the connection. So let's get back to that.
Yes,
Mr.
please,
yeah.
Whether GBA had run a resolution or not, like I said, the GBA as an intelligentsia group definitely must make pronouncements periodically concerning the state of rule of law in the country. And it is not new. It's not new to Ghana. It is the order of the day in other countries where the rule of law is thriving. The GBA must always be seen as leading the way by putting up either academic papers out or legal communique out on matters of public interest, so to weigh the direction as it may be on such matters. Yes, so the GBA should always be seen as a driving force when it comes to legal matters in any country, in Ghana, and the Bar Association in any country.
Now is the leadership of the GBA, and I say leadership because the first statement last week, I think it was on the 24th of April, signed by the president of the Ghana Bar Association and I think the secretary, said that they hope that we will respect the rule of law. And that's from the leadership. And now we're hearing that some members, not the GBA, passing the resolution to call on the president to revoke the suspension of the Chief Justice. What does it say about the GBA's position on this? It looks divided, does it not?
Oh, I mean, it is only a dissenting voice. I mean, however unofficial it is, it is only a dissenting voice who can be rooted to the bar. Because, just say, example, you have the Engineers Association, there would be an official communication from the leadership of the engineers, but definitely you would have a portion or, a proportion of the members who also have a certain belief. And by that belief, they could sign up under a letter and have that circulated. It all eulogizes the beautiful democracy that we have, that it's a rule-based order. However unofficial it is, they are also communicating to the president. The president, as the Constitution requires, exercise his discretion. Because if you look at Article 146, it uses 146.10, which deals with the drawing of the warrant of suspension. It uses the permissive word as may. So it is not shall. So the president exercised that discretion. And that's why in my plenary remarks, I indicated that would it be that every petition against such office would come with the exercise of suspension? It is indeed an area that it requires serious legislation or established procedures of law, so to deal with that area of ambiguity. The whole, especially the second limb of Article 146 is plunged in ambiguity, and it's mostly left to what the bench called filling the gap, and that's what the Frank Chum case did, where Dr. Gateban gave the lead opinion and dealt with serious issues, tackling the omission of prima facie, who determines prima facie, and subsequently urged that there should be a procedure established in dealing with this particular matter. Further urged the Council of State to get eminent experts to assist them in carry out this mandate and all of that. So it is an area of law that is gray, that does not have proper legal protocols to govern or to navigate the waters, and that is how come we find ourselves in all of this.
So be that as it may, in the words of the GBA, they said this is sub judice. I'm not a lawyer, but I understand this means that it's under judicial consideration, which in most cases means that it should be prohibited from public discussion. So should members of the GBA be running commentary on what the president should and should not do on this matter, after the GBA has issued a statement and clearly stating that this matter is sub judice? That's the point I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, I mean, sub judice, yeah, basically, like you said, I mean, when we say a court is sub judice, it basically means that the court has taken charge over the matter. The proceedings are ongoing, so yes, general education can be hard on it, but determining the outcome, digesting steps to be taken by the judge and all of that should be withheld, and that's it, because you risk the issue of contempt and all of that. But be it as it may, this it's more quasi judicial body that is determining this. But like I said, the uncertainty on forces is what has generated the public interest and all of this.
Right.
And we only pray that the Rules Committee would deal with this, as Dr. Dateban also called on them in the Frank Ajechum case at the Supreme Court some time ago.
Just a quick one, or two, I should say. If you look at 146.11, that is where it says the president may at any time revoke a suspension under this article. So a revocation of the suspension when imposed. But if you go to 10B, it says where a petition has been referred to a committee under this article, that is the Council of State or maybe the committee after post the fact. B says in the case of any other justice of a superior court or of a chairman of a regional tribunal acting in accordance with the advice of the Judicial Council, suspend that justice or that chairman of a regional tribunal. I do not see, I just want clarity on where it says may when it comes to the suspension of the Chief Justice. Can you give me clarity on that?
So if you read the provision on the suspension of the Chief Justice, it does not, it is not mandatory. It is not mandatory.
But it can be applied.
Only permissive. It's not mandatory.
It can be applied.
Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can. We're hearing you.
It is not mandatory.
Which means it can be applied. Discretion, based on discretion.
The circumstances should warrant that. The nature of the offense should warrant that. And so that leaves it in the hands of the president to do that. That is why Article 296 comes in with the issue of discretionary power. And that such discretionary power should not be laced with any idiosyncrasy, should be fair in the exercise and all of that. You see, the Constitution is not read literally. We have moved away. Ghana has moved away from literal interpretation. We now do what we call purposive interpretation. If you look at Tufo and Attorney General, Salah and AG, and many of the constitutional cases.
I think you're trying to land somewhere. Let me ask you this.
Justice Adade,
Mr. Hesse,
and indicated that the spirit and letter of the Constitution must always be considered.
Can you hear me, Mr. Hesse?
Interpreting the Constitution, because the Constitution is a living organism.
Okay, it doesn't. I don't know whether.
Political document.
Can you hear me, Mr. Hesse?
Yes. Can you hear me, please?
Okay. When you speak, it appears you don't hear us when we interject. I just wanted to find out from you, based on what you as a lawyer have seen, though the PRO of the GBA says there's no such resolution, do you think the bar was met for a prima facie case to be established? You seem to lean in a certain way. I just want to find out categorically from you. Do you think that threshold was met? And if not, why?
With issue of prima facie, however the degree of it may be, it is a constitutional mandate of the Council of State to determine. It will not be my respective opinion to determine that, because I don't have the facts for me. So once the respondent has a matter to respond to, the determining umpire who decide to say that there is a matter to respond to, and by that there is a prima facie. Prima facie basically is that yes, there is a matter to determine. There are tribal issues. There is a matter to be determined on the face of the petition. So, however that umpire determines fate, that is that discretionary authority vested in it constitutionally to determine that. And if in the wisdom of that collective, they have that judicial consideration or opinion that this is the way to go, nobody can challenge that constitutional decision that they have taken, unless it is one that is unconstitutional. then yes, you can have redress in court as
all right.
That which they have done.
Let me
fall within the annals of the law.
Let me state categorically, my producer insists that he never communicated to Andrew Sejapa Mercer to say that the GBA had a resolution on that matter. He wants it to be forcefully, put through. And that was the allegation made by Andrew Sejapa Mercer and the grounds on which he exited the conversation this morning. I'm not, trying to impugn him, but I'm also just speaking on behalf of my producer who wants this to be clarified. It's unfortunate that Andrew Sejapa Mercer did not stay with us for the rest of the conversation. Just to end with you, and Sweetie will conclude the conversation, is it odd that constitutional processes have been triggered and the GBA head, Madam Gatti, also makes mention of certain changes that ought to be brought to bear? We know that the law can't be retrospective, and once it is what it is what applies. So in terms of an in-camera option, for example, for it to be made public, none of that can apply now per the Constitution, can it? Just clarity on that, and I'll hand over to Sweetie.
Yes. So, the constitutional requirements require it as that. But again, it would be a determination by consensus whether indeed this matter of public interest should be held in camera in accordance with Article 1468, and as also explained in the Frank Ajechum case. That is the locus classicus for this particular Article 146 matter. And so, for me, and just as it's done in court, the AMPA, being the committee, they might reach out to all parties and say that, even though the Constitution says this matter should be held in camera, would you agree that it is held otherwise? And if all the parties agree to that consensus, then they are ceded to that kind of jurisdiction, and that would happen.
Right.
But if one party says no, then they will just go with the constitutional process. It happens all the time.
Christian Malam Hesse is a lawyer. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Malam Hesse, not Malam.
Malam Hesse.
You don't.
You're not a Malam.
Malam
Thank
Hesse.
you. And we also spoke to Andrew Sejapa Mercer. He's a lawyer, former MP for Second D and former tourism minister, as well as former deputy energy minister. And before we leave, are you looking for a home in a prime location? Then Nestor's Homes has got you covered. Our properties in Tema Community 26, just behind Palace Mall, after a serene atmosphere, easy access to transportation routes and social amenities. Those are the things you get access to. Off-plan price starts at 35,000 United States dollars. Give us a call. Let's discuss. 053-101-4440 or 053-101-4447. You can also visit our website at www.nestas.com.gh. Men will tell you about Syntex Tank.
Well, Ghana, let's talk water tanks. Do you know the secret to real water storage? It's simple. If your tank doesn't have the tortoise on it, then it's not the correct tank. That's right. The tortoise tank, Syntex Tank, is the champion of tanks. It is strong, durable, and built to handle our Ghanaian weather. So rain or shine, Syntex Tank has your back. It's got you covered. So my people, go outside, check your tank. If it doesn't have the achishidie, the tortoise on it, it's time to upgrade, scale up. Join the Syntex Tank family today and enjoy water storage that's tough, like a tortoise. Just call 0244-335-168 to buy now or find one of our 400 agents nationwide. You can also shop online at syntexgh.com. Syntex Tank, strong, tough. Do stick and stay. We'll be back with more action in a bit on the AM Show.
You're still watching the AM Show, sponsored by Waylead Properties, and they provide you quality housing at an affordable cost and with flexible payment option. Now, this morning, we want to talk to Domestic Workers Union on what their challenges are. In the studio with me this morning is Hajia Fati. She's a second trustee, Domestic Services Workers Union, and Eva Atakpa is the chairperson for Domestic Services Workers Union. Ladies, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
How are you doing this morning?
We're doing good.
And just for clarity, before we get into the conversation, this union comprises drivers, nannies, cooks, everyone really who works in a home.
Yeah.
So that is the union, the association. How long have you been in action, I should say?
We started organizing since 2010. And then by 2015, we had a few members. So we went for our first founding conference on the 16th September 2015.
Okay.
And so we have been in existence like 15 years now. And the union is growing stronger by the day.
Okay. And this is backed by law. In fact, there's a, what's it called? Labor Organization Convention C189 on decent work for domestic workers. And so you are here to call attention to the implementation of that labor LI and some of the challenges that you have. So let's start from there. Let me start with you, Hania Fatimatu. How's it going with your members? I understand it's not all rosy. Tell us, what's the story here?
We have a lot of members now because we've been moving from Accra to the regions. Now we are fully in the Volta region, Eastern region, and then the Central region. We are heading towards the Northern region, and it's like we are having a lot of members now. It's only that we are having some challenges here and there.
Okay. So, Eva, you are the chairperson, Domestic Services Workers Union. I want to understand what your story is. I mean, obviously, we are here to discuss something that's not going right with you so that we can draw attention on the appropriate authorities to take action. What exactly is that problem?
You know, formerly, domestic workers were called Abawa. You go to the village, bring your niece or your nephew to come and help you. You also help.
True.
That is how it is. But when you come, the more treatments, just too much. Sometimes you'll be with your own uncle or your own auntie, but the food they will eat, they will not allow you to eat that food.
True.
They maltreat you, call you all sorts of names. So we sat down and thought of, why don't we form a union so that we can have a voice? Because we believe domestic work is also work.
Yes, it is.
Yes. So domestic workers and all household workers must also enjoy the rights as other workers.
And you're saying this is not the case as we speak. So your workers are being mistreated by the employers. And is there a way you can, where do you address these issues? For example, if a house help is being maltreated and they come to you, what do you do about it? How do you get the situation addressed?
Yes, we go to the labor office to address it. So I think now, we now know our rights. Before we come to you for work, there should be a contract. There should be a contract. You sign, I sign, my witness sign, your witness sign, then I keep one, you keep one. We send one to the labor office so that in case you maltreat me, I go. First of all, when they come to us, we try to address it. We go to the employer, see the employer now, talk to the person. But if you want to prove stubborn, then we go further.
Would you say the Labour Commission has been helpful?
Yes.
They have been?
They have been.
Okay.
Yes.
And the implementation of this LI 2408 is also going well?
Yes.
Right. So it's just the maltreatment of your workers that you're here to draw attention to?
Sometimes you don't have even rest periods. You work for 12 hours without a rest period. But at least we must have 1 hour rest period in every 8 hours.
Ajia, let me hear from you as well.
I, for one, I was a domestic worker before having my first degree.
Okay.
Because those I was working with,
gave me the room to do whatever I want to do. And what I'm seeing is that most of the domestic workers are not educated, so they don't know what to do. So now the union is bringing them together. We educate some of them, and then we go to talk to their employers. Some agree, some don't. And you should, because we have our rights.
Yes.
So you can't sit on anybody's rights because that person is not educated, and then you call that person an abawa. So we are doing our best, going to all avenues to make the domestic worker free.
Are you educating your members? Are you letting them understand that they have, I mean, beside the labor law, human rights comes top of all. You cannot mistreat any human being just because they work for you in the home. So are you educating your members enough so they also understand that they shouldn't accept all forms of mistreatment from the employers?
Yes.
Are you educating them?
Yeah, and then that is why we need a law to back us. You can't just, if there are educated men who have these hours. So if you can't just go to that person and talk just like that. You have to be backed by law.
Right.
And that is why we are bringing in the laws to back us, so that those who don't have any education at all, they should know that when I work from 6 to 6, I think at least I should rest. At the end of the year, I should have a leave. When I give birth, there are some people who give birth and they still work. There are some ladies who, most of those workers are also female.
Yes.
The male are very few. So they can work, they can be mishandled. You know, men, they can do anything. So most of us are being motivated. So we are educating them. We are doing our best to see that we are all equal. Because so I'll still call myself a domestic worker.
So you're looking for breaks?
Yes.
You're looking for paid leave, maternal leave. You're looking for sick leave. You're looking for proper treatment of your members.
Yes.
What about the Ghana Police Service? I know that the police, every form of mistreatment or violence, crime, your first point of call should ideally be the police. What's the relationship? Are you able to find some solution there when you go to the Ghana Police Service?
Formally, you know, some people, when they employ you, after working in their home, you have to finish on their bed. They harass you sexually.
Yes.
What?
Yes. We have faced all forms of sexual harassment.
And abuse. That's abuse.
Abuse, yes.
Yeah.
But when you go to when you go to the police, they just do some way, and the case is dead. But ever since we started this union, I quite remember we had one case. When we reported to the police,
because now you have a union, you have backing in the law and all that.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I want you to appeal to the Minister for Labor, Jobs, Employment. Appeal to the President, if he's listening to us right now, on exactly what you need for these appropriate authorities or leaders to do to make your work as a union easy and also make the lives of these workers better. Because at the end of the day, they're still human beings who are working for us. They help your life become better, so don't mistreat them. Let me start with you, Eva.
Yes. We want to appeal to the Minister. Though we've been to his office on one occasion, we sat down with him, talked to him, and he was very happy we are taking this stance. And we've been to the Labour Commission too. The Chief Labour was also happy we are taking this stance. So we are appealing to government to ratify this convention for us, because Convention 189 talks about decent work for domestic workers. Every member working in your home is also working. Because you wake up in the morning, dress, go to your office. That domestic worker stays in your house, do everything, take care of your children. So she's also working for you. So we appeal to the government. this convention was adopted in Geneva since 2011. But still, Ghana government has not ratified it. They only passed the regulation for us. That is the airline 2408.
Yeah.
But there are
there's more work to be done. There's more work to be done. Okay, Haji, I'll give you the final word.
Okay. So we are appealing to, even though we've gone far, we've gone to some ministers and then they've agreed with us, they've agreed to do what we want, but still we are appealing here that they should take care of the domestic worker.
All right.
It's more important. Without us, your home is not a home.
Thank you so much for coming, and I wish you the very best.
Thank you.
And I mean, this is to all of us, really. Don't mistreat or maltreat your domestic workers. At the end of the day, you're human beings making your life better. Those who join us for this conversation, Hajia Fati, she's a second trustee, Domestic Services Workers Union, and Eva Atakpa is a chairperson for Domestic Services Workers Union. Thank you for coming. All right. Now, we are still talking about that exclusive Easter sales promotion happening now in all CompuGhana branches. From now till the 30th of April, you get up to 50% off when you buy top brands like Samsung, Lenovo, TCL, ITEL, and many more. You can win an 85-inch smart TV, iPhones, laptops, juicers, and so many more in this draw that is currently going on. The draw will be on the 2nd of May. And with a minimum of 1,000 Ghana cedi purchase, you can enter the draw by simply texting your invoice number to the short code. The raffle draw, remember, is on the 2nd of May, so shop now. You can also shop online at www.compughana.com or visit any of our showrooms or call this number, 0302 752020, or send a WhatsApp to this number, 024 314 3143. This is not the end of the show yet. We'll be right back on the AM show. You're still watching the AM show live on Joy News across Ghana's 16 regions and around the world on myjoyonline.com, sponsored by Waylead Properties. We provide quality housing at an affordable cost with a flexible payment option. We've got a conversation of women empowerment. Let's talk about sustainability of African women. In the studio with me for this conversation this morning, we have the founder of Women in Sustainability Africa, Nanaya Sewa Sapong, and we also have Nkechi Akunyili. She's a CEO, Access View Africa. Ladies, good morning. I like the vibrant colors, the green, the black, you know, that's who we are. Welcome aboard.
Thank you,
Let me start with you, Nanaya Sewa Sapong. Talk to me about women's sustainability in Africa. How did you birth this idea? Where did it come from?
Okay, so it started a couple of years ago, a few years ago, when I had a vision to go into to start my PhD. So I started doing research. Now, this is my 18 years empowering women, engaging women both in Ghana and across the world, many continents. And we've seen the issues that cut across. We've discussed the issues, a lot of them, but most of the times we don't delve deeper into to arrest the problem. Sustainability, why sustainability? It is because we must be able to leave this world in a better place than we came to meet it for generations yet unborn.
Yeah.
And women are best called for ethical leadership. And so who better wear the hat, right?
Yeah.
So we believe that women can champion the cause. As of last year, the UN launched this acceleration program to close the gap in the SDG.
Yeah.
By 2030, we should have achieved 100%.
True.
And we've barely achieved 40%. So we need catalytic ideas that would revolutionize the whole process.
Yes.
And we thought, why not involve women? Because women have not been involved in the sustainability conversation much. A lot of women are not aware of what's going on. Either they are doing sustainability activities, but they are working in silos. We have other group of women who also have no idea what the SDG goals are even about. Then there are those who are doing something, but they don't even know that it is aligned to the SDG. So bringing all these women together under one umbrella, coordinating the activities, we are working with everybody, so that at the end of the day, women can stand out.
That's actually a very wonderful idea, bringing all women under one umbrella so that we can have a clear path on exactly what we want and how to get it. I like that. Nkechi, talk to us about Access View Africa before we get into the launch of women's sustainability.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's really lovely to be here. And Nana, she's done a brilliant job. And just bringing me to support this is because the time I just heard of it and I said, this is what we've been talking about. We needed a voice, and that's her voice. So yeah, for Access View Africa, what we do basically is to support businesses, women businesses, support businesses that are in the real sector to actually thrive in a sustainable way. So we support them through capacity building so that they know what responsible business practices are, how they are supposed to do businesses to stay sustainable in the long term, and be able to have access to markets and just thrive in the business that they're doing. I left banking 25 years to do this.
Okay.
And
no, land for me, please.
Yeah, and that was where I saw this because I saw the gap between why banks are not able to support businesses because of, are they really prepared for the funding that they're supposed to do? So we support them to help them to know how to be ready to get investment into their business and beyond that.
I'm so excited because I feel like this is my future. I do run an organization, Girl Get Up Africa, but it's more of a thought-leading organization, try to reorient young women to take more agency over their lives, So I like this conversation. So let's talk about the launch of women's sustainability in Africa. What is the X factor? When we attend, what are the expectations?
Okay.
Yeah.
Just before I zoom in there, let me just set a little backdrop.
Okay.
So I talked about the overall vision, bringing all women together to collaborate towards movement of the SDGs, achievement of the SDGs. Now, when us women are focusing to move along the SDGs, we ask ourselves the question, there are still issues of inequality, gender inequality that is out there. How do we resolve it? How do we bring attention to the growth of women and the empowerment of women so that we can do more, including driving the SDGs? Yes. That is why we're looking at a two-pronged approach in response to awaken a new perspective or new perspectives towards gender empowerment. We're saying that the empowerment of women is economical. It's got great benefit for the nation. It is not left to some few who are going to be antagonistic about it. It is not a fight. It is coming together just as God intended. In Genesis, when the Lord blessed the man and the woman, he charged both of them to multiply, to take over, to take dominion. And that is to say that they must take care of what creation has put into their hands and to be fruitful and multiply. It was both the man and the woman. And so we go back to the basics. We go back to the Garden of Eden, how God intended. And we're saying men have not taken anything from us women. Rather, we need to get up. We need to find our voice within. We need to reach out and see what God has put inside of us and that we can do it.
Okay.
And what we are also saying is that, so we're standing with men. We need the men. The men have the keys to the door that we want to enter into. And we're saying, please stand with us, hold our hands. We need you.
It's not a fight.
And together, it's not a fight.
Not a fight.
And together, that is how the SDG gap would be closed.
Yes.
And then towards the investment, you ask yourself, why must we invest in women? As a nation, as a business and all of that, we say, look at this business case. In any organization, in any country, you have two key human resource, men and women. So in a country and in a continent where about 50% and a little over that are women, then it means if you need all 100% of your workforce, up and doing and performing to expected outcomes, then you need to invest in women who are very marginalized, a lot of them. And we need to bring everybody up so that we can contribute much better.
I feel like I'm already at the conference, which is why you should not miss it. It's coming up on the 1st of May. Let's get the details out there. I'm sure we've already built excitement for those watching us. So when is it happening? Where is it happening? And who is invited? Nkechi, you want to take that for us?
Yeah, who is invited? I tell you, every woman that is out there, that you're in business, that you have plans to be in business, that you're supporting any kind of business wherever you are, even like your previous program, the women, even in house help, we just want women to have a voice.
Right.
You know, we need you to be there.
But when you say business, does it mean the entrepreneurs only? Or
not entrepreneurs, that's why I said support.
Right, okay.
Support, even if you're working. So you need to understand that you're a leader in your small space. It doesn't mean that you have to own this. It's just to understand how you're going to play in the role that you're going to play here.
Okay.
And just see women that have walked the ropes and how they've gone there, because they just didn't become entrepreneurs. Someone like me, I worked for someone for 25. It was in my small space that I conceived what I'm doing today, because I said, I'll have to own this. I'm a woman. I need to have a voice. The way I walk in my space, I need to actually show up and be able to make sure that I add my voice to the discussion that is happening.
Okay.
So it's really something that we're so passionate about, and it's something that women, we've not been heard. No, honestly, we've not been heard, and it's not, like you rightly said, it's not a fight. No. Taking our role in the creation is support. Have we supported enough? Have we been given that opportunity to support?
Okay.
You know, I would say this before we talk about this thing. When women say, oh, women is the house that it should be, the fact that you play that kind of role that you play at home, that's an MD CEO of a house.
Preach!
You need I'm telling you, a woman that is, you say, I was in an interview and the woman said, I've been a housewife. And someone on the panel said, oh, she doesn't have any experience. I'm like, hell no. Do you know what it is to be a CEO of a family?
Yeah.
You're running the home. You're the one crying for the galamsey. The water that you're using to cook. Your voice is there.
And they're counting us down, so we have to go. But,
okay, so it's 1st of May at the Wesley Towers Ridge, Accra.
Okay.
So you just Google Wesley Towers Ridge, Accra, and it will bring you there. There's a beautiful auditorium on the 4th floor. That's where all of it is happening. Yeah. So 1st of May, Labor Day, we're using the day to mark the relevance of women as source of labor and agents of sustainability.
Okay.
So every woman is invited, the farmer, and especially for this organization, we stand for the grassroots, the trader, the market women, and you will see them on the panel for the first time.
Okay.
They're going to be on the panel. You find men on the panel also.
Everything you need to know about women, how we can achieve our goals at that conference, the 1st of May. Don't miss it. The details will be on your screen again. On that flyer, so do take notes. Thank you all so much for coming. Nana Yase Wasapong is the founder, Women in Sustainability Africa. And Nkechi Akunyili is the CEO, Access View Africa. Please make it a point to attend. Is it a virtual session?
Yes,
there's a virtual session, so we can find you online as well. All right. And after the break, we will be bringing you in the trends. You know, Derek Ashilevi and Jakiatu Hajia will be here to tell you everything that's happening. But before I pop off, are you ready to dream, dare, and deliver in the world of IT? Then look no further than Jackson Institute of Technology, the only NIIT authorized training center in Ghana. Listen, at GIT, we provide world-class IT training for individuals and corporate organizations, equipping you with industry-relevant skills in software development, cybersecurity, networking, cloud computing, artificial intelligence. The list goes on and on and on. We offer globally recognized certifications, practical job-ready training, and flexible hybrid learning options, which allows you to study both online or on-site. Plus, our expert instructors ensure hands-on learning experiences that prepare you for success in today's digital world. And we are conveniently located on the Ring Road near Circle in the heart of Accra Central Business District. And in Kumasi, you can find us at Jackson Educational Complex headquarters at Ayeduase near KNUST. Listen, JIT provides easy access for students and corporate clients, plus our state-of-the-art auditorium is available for corporate events, seminars and training sessions. Why don't you just give us a call, 059-699-6037, or visit our website at www.jit.edu.gh. JIT, your gateway to a thriving IT career. Coming up next in the trends with Derek Elomashelevi and Jacqueline Ansomayebwa. We'll be right back.
Well, it's a new week, new Wahala, and social media, not a disappointing crowd.
Charlie, from the hot takes, of course, to the cold replies on social media, if it happens, we'll serve you here.
Well, whether you are chilling this morning or stuck in traffic, we've got you the gist that you might have missed.
This is your morning social media bar stop. And we'll serve you the issues. And I'm so excited to be doing it with this beautiful lady. Because last week she wasn't here. She was celebrating her birthday.
Let me introduce myself.
Okay, forgive me. My name is Derek and I'm doing this with the ever beautiful
Jacqueline Ansomayebwa.
Great. I'm so excited to do this with Jackie. And of course, the stories are a lot. Let me not waste your time. Let me head you right into it. The very first story is what you see behind me, is the passing of Pope Francis.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all very, saddened by it. Exactly a week ago, Easter Monday, we lost him, and he was laid to rest over the weekend in the Vatican City, St. Peter's Basilica Square. Some of the visuals you see on your screen. And a number of things happened at his funeral.
Yeah.
One of them is that we had 200, and that's the crowd you see, 250,000 mourners gathering. And just so you know, the Catholics make up the world is made up of 8 billion people, and Catholics alone are 1.4 billion. And so this is a big funeral,
Yeah.
So we had 250,000 mourners showing up. And of course, if you know Pope Francis, he was an amazing guy and he was always preaching peace. And so a lot of world leaders gathered.
Yeah.
One of whom is our very popular guy, Mr. Trump. And there's a certain shocking, Prince is going to show you the pictures you're going to see. Everybody shows up in black suits because we are all mourning and all of that. But not my Trump.
Definitely.
Trump shows up in a blue suit. And people go like, okay, we can pardon him for the blue suit.
Yeah.
But at least you should do a black tie to signify that.
But, well, probably there was no dress code, so he just wanted to do the different, dare to be different at the Pope's funeral.
But people argue that it's a funeral. This is not the point.
But that is Trump that we are talking about.
Okay.
He wakes up and does the wild thing.
You have a point on that. Then another shocking guy who also showed up was Zelensky. And just so you know, Zelensky was the only president who got applause from the crowd. And shockingly, when they met at the Pope's funeral, they had a tete-a-tete.
Yeah.
They had initially clashed when he visited, the
whole
White House.
thing that happened.
Yeah, but they had a very fruitful conversation. And it feels like a father talking to the son. And a lot of people have really lauded Zelensky for this because it feels like, Charlie, he's put his personal pride aside and is pushing for his people. And another shocking thing is that this is the first time we've seen Zelensky show up, not in a military suit, but not even in a political suit, but still in black, still letting everybody know that, Charlie, he's not the best of man. He's still fighting some battles.
But when he even met Trump in the White House, he was still in the whole black thing.
Yeah. Then one thing that also took the headlines concerning the Pope's funeral is the fact that it was a very modest ceremony. He had a very simple coffin, and he gave the inscription that the tomb should not be decorated with any extra thing. It should be very simple and modest. That's the coffin you see, made of oak and zinc. Yeah. That's what he wanted,
Something very, very simple.
Very simple.
Yeah. And even when you're talking about the fact that a lot of mourners were there, it was also one of the most watched, let me say, live streams. Apart from Super Bowl that a lot of people watch, a lot of people were watching this live stream. You could see across most of the international media houses, people staying glued to their social media or their various pages, trying to be updated on what was happening at the Pope's funeral.
Yeah. Of course, I mean, we don't like to be the bearer of bad news, but that's what happened over the weekend. Jackie, guess the next story that we have. It's the story of Honorable Ama Kofi Boa.
Which
crying.
Which part of the Bible says that? And he wept.
And Jesus, well, you know, John, Sweetie, I don't know if it's a good time to bounce back, but we'll go to Sweetie pretty to give us the exact verse. But it's quite sad that he wept. I mean, don't take my word for it. Watch the video. I'll bring you the comments and all the juice after that. Charlie, there you see it. My honorable lance minister.
Yes, oh.
And people did not spare him. It's like, Bemensu. Why should, and I mean, some people feel that it's theatrics. We'll get into the comment, but Jackie, he watches the documentary, and for the first time, he sees the degraded land, the water, how mercury has destroyed all our, and you see Senor Hosi going to, you know,
but even for the documentary, well, we don't know what actually was going through his mind. But if you actually see the documentary, I remember during the series of protests last year, being part of the whole coverage, when they showed the documentary, you know, I hadn't really seen it. That was Erastus, the documentary on
Poison for Gold.
Yes, and you see the side effects of these mercury in the children, and you see how deformed they are.
Born with 6 fingers, and all some without limbs.
I don't know if that was the part, but if that was the part there, then I agree. I mean,
well, some people feel that. It's Charlie Polly. We've seen it before.
Yeah.
I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Let's take the comment and let's see what social media has got to say on that.
Yes. So Griffin first comment says, Griffin says, maybe the tears will clear the waters.
Because,
shaking my head.
I mean, is our honorable Ama Kofi Boa telling us that he's not watched Joy News. He doesn't see the visuals.
He hasn't seen.
This is the first time he's seen the Galamsey.
He hasn't seen it yet.
Oh, okay. If you defend him, sure. I don't have
so we are hoping that the tears will clear the waters.
Yeah.
And Etonam says that formats. LOL. And Idrisu says that please stop weeping and let's catch all those involved and let them pay for their crimes and action. Yeah. This last comment here says that the former Deputy Minister of Finance, that Sakura guy, wept more than this, yet became one of the most corrupt guy in Ghana's history. That's according to Ahmed. Yes.
There are more comments on that.
Charlie, fix the problem. That's why we elected you.
Because if it's crying competition, we can all cry. We can all cry.
I know, right? We can all cry. Because when I saw the video, I even wanted to cry.
I mean, not to say we are not, you know, sensitive or all of that. I mean, perhaps, Jackie, I must also make the point that perhaps he was so touched to the core. For the first time, this time around, he's in power. Yeah. So if one like, am I the one to lift this burden?
Sure.
You know, just like how Jesus prayed that, Father, let this cup pass over me, yet not thy will. So perhaps Honorable Ama Kofi Boa was going through that.
I mean, he's human.
He's human.
Yeah, he's human. And Miyaki says that for the camera. Well, we don't know. Yep. And Patience says that after the tears, please do the needful. Yeah. T for thanks.
Prosecute the people.
Felix says that if the job had, step aside, oh master. So a lot of comments on this social media expressing their thoughts on what they think about the ministers' MTS.
Sweetie, you interact with ministers, you're a journalist, every day you're talking about Galamsey on the AM show. Sweetie, is it about time we started crying? Is it about time we started fixing the issue?
You know, they say, Shakespeare said, there's no act to show the mind's construction on the face. And I also know that sometimes as human beings, we just get overwhelmed with, you know, emotions. So I really cannot judge. But I also know that crying, it won't solve the problem, Honorable Minister. Thank you. That's what I think.
I like Sweetie because again, and I'm not a bro for yet.
I know, right?
And yet bigger quiz, I'm going to take a step, Benjamin Akapo. Man, I was playing him on.
You just wanted that point.
Yeah, that point. Can you imagine he did the intro and introduced my leg as short legs? I forgive him. But of course, we got. Let's see our next story. Which is the story of it made the headlines.
Yeah.
TTH versus the health minister.
Yeah, I think from Tuesday through to Friday, we're still making headlines. Even over the weekend, so we're still making headlines.
Jackie, let me give you all the juice you need to know.
Sure, shoot.
So something happened. Honorable Minta Akando took over and he's doing something that nobody has done, which is visiting the hospital. Surprisingly unprepared. You didn't prepare for it. It's like those days that the master teacher will come to class from nowhere.
Mental.
And I shall you know. So April 11, he visits Rich Hospital. He gets angry that the machines, health facilities are not working. Yeah. He tells them to use their internally generated funds to fix some of the issues.
Yeah.
Exactly 11 days later, April 22nd, he goes to Tamale Teaching Hospital with Honorable Suyini, Tamale North MP. Then they inspected, they realized a lot of things were not working. One of the things is that water does not flow.
Yeah.
The hospital gets constant power cuts. So they interact about that. Then, just so you know, the week before the Honorable Minister went to Tamale, the Tamale Teaching Hospital had lost a patient over what is alleged as medical neglect. And so people were already incensed and angry about the issue.
He had heard about it.
He had heard about it. So the Honorable Minister brought it up. And in the video you saw, the guy you saw is Dr. Atiku. He was trying to make the point about how it's not what you think.
I think they call him Dr. Val too. He has a popular
Let's
name
listen
Val.
for that. We'll bring you the juice.
But you see, what you when you put up this behavior, even the minister, me, look at the way you are behaving in front of me. Even in front of the minister, so you can imagine how I'm trying to explain. You can imagine how you behave as a common person. No, but you see, what you how can you behave like this? So it means that you're doing worse things here. It means that you're doing worse things here. When you put up this behavior, even the minister, me, look at the way you are behaving in front of me.
So if you are talking to me that I'm the minister this way, then how will you talk to the normal people?
I know, right?
You know, so Honorable Minta Akando was incensed. He got angry, and guess what happened the night? That same day, on April 22nd, he fires the CEO. And the Ghana Medical Association didn't think it was a light issue.
Yeah.
And so they did something, and you're going to see my slides. This is what happened. The doctors protested by going on a strike on 24th that if you sack our CEO, we are not going to work anymore, especially in the emergency.
Yeah, they had some demands too. They needed an apology. Yeah,
Great.
That was part of their demands. They needed some equipment. And there was another thing, though, that they needed. But the most important thing was the apology.
Yeah.
They needed an apology.
Great. And you've gotten ahead of me, which is the fact that they strike because they wanted the Honorable Minister to apologize. Yeah. But the Honorable Minister, you know, does a very good rebuttal by saying, oh, you guys, you are my people, you are my doctors. I've heard your needs, and I've brought you all the medical equipment you need. But the doctors insist that, we've returned to work. So they've returned to work, but they still demand a public apology. Social media didn't do soft with this news. It was a big deal on the headlines. And so, Jackie, run me through the comments.
Well, Slim says that he just looks at the young doctor and thinks he's a son. Don't talk back when I'm talking to you. This is Ghana.
Yeah.
Penny kasa, on kasa. Even if you are older than the Penimu, and in terms of work, you are a subordinate. You can't talk back. When the person is talking, this is Ghana. Andrew also says that, oh, Honorable, this one day, try. And the last comment here, all I saw was the doctor being assertive. And if the minister took that as disrespect, then his ego might be the real issue here. Also, since when are mortality audits conducted in front of the cameras? That's not accountability. It's a blatant ethical violation.
All right, moving on, I'll skip this and move to our next story. It is the story that also made very shocking waves on social media.
Which is still trending today.
Still trending. Yeah. I mean, it seems like a story that will really trend for some time.
Yeah.
It is President Mahama, for the first time, suspending a Chief Justice after the 1992 Constitution. This is the first time it's ever happening. Yeah. Over some what they call misconduct.
Yeah.
And in one of the petitions that was submitted to, the committee, is that she... You know how she has some privileges and benefits to enjoy, traveling with her family,
But this the husband and the daughter.
She traveled with her daughter and the husband and gives them per diem.
Even on even on holidays and all this stuff.
And so a lot of people feel there was some error there. There was quite a glitch.
Yeah.
And apart from that, of course, she's appointed by a political figure. And so there are some politics at play,
Sure.
Social media definitely was buzzing about it. Jackie ran me through it.
All right. So Doka says that good news. When I saw the news, I was smiling and my wife thought I'm cheating. Only she picked my phone and realized the story.
Hey, Charlie, why do some people get excited when people are going
Someone's failure. Mr. Sapon says that I get that she's misconducted herself in some ways, but for other fundamental reasons, I don't think her removal is best.
Yeah.
Courage says that you and I knew long before the 7th December elections, the way Tokono was glaringly in bed with Akufo-Addo should have been removed if the table turned.
Courage, no,
but that's his comment. He's saying that, remember, number one, birth certificates, not proof of citizenship. Afenyo Markin versus the speaker, LBGTQ.
He hold for me. You know, so these are some of the issues that she, you know, made headlines with. Yeah. This was the fact that when there was the issue
prior to elections,
Afenyo Markin versus the speaker, she made a decision. She made a rule that the speaker is not in his place to decide whether he's suspending the parliamentary candidates and all of that. So it made some rules. Then the LGBT plus case involving the last guy.
Yeah, that was very delayed so much that he couldn't even sign it. And CSOs versus Nana-Addo on the removal of the Auditor General, Yaodam level. And the last one says here that if I were here, I would have long resigned and no way to be taken through all this. A lot of comments on that on social media.
Great. Yeah. Let me run you through our next story. Is the fact that I just like Mr. Bawumia, Dr. Bawumia for that reason. Bawuzi, you know. I mean, now they've started their thank you tour.
Yeah.
And, you know, Professor Michael Okwe's report, post-election report is out.
Which they prefer not to publicize it.
Yeah, because according to JFK, he feels that if they put it out, it will destroy the party.
It's suicide.
It's suicidal. In fact, those are his exact words. And in Dr. Bawumia's, thank you to one of the statements he made was the fact that he, as a Muslim candidate, performed a lot more better than many Christian candidates. And
in their own constituencies.
In their own constituencies. Yeah. And it was because when, on the build-up to the elections, a lot of people kept saying that the first time we're having a Muslim candidate, is he going to win? They are not going to, you know, he's the first Muslim candidate flag bearer for the NPP.
Yeah.
You know, so social media quite makes some way. When he made the statement that, you know, poor one man temp crowd, Jackie, run me to the social media comments in there.
Well, real quick. So Humbleland says that the blame starts with data. And Nebula says that, hey, he got 38.2%, so you can't blame him.
Wow.
Great says that Christians or Muslims didn't vote based on religion. They vote based on personality of their choice.
Yeah.
Forget perform better than mantra and focus on investigative reports coming from Prof. Okwe. A lot of stuff that people have been sharing on this. I wish I could run you through all of them, but time wouldn't permit us.
Great. Of course, it's been the trends with me, Derek Elom Ashilevi. You guys, just so you know, there's a guy who wants to make my job difficult, Benjamin Akakpo, and I'm not scared to tell him that. I said his head is big for a reason. If he doesn't like it, you should go and sleep. But I love doing this with Jacqueline and Sumaya Boa. Sweetie, take it away.
Well, you pair, you know, you are my favorite Monday elements to look forward to. Thank you guys for bringing us what's in the trends. And on that issue on the, you know, TTH, I want to say that Newton's third law of action-reaction, to every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Yes. You get what you give, you know. But that's how we're wrapping up the AM show this morning. And of course, today being a Monday, we'll be leaving you with Ghana Grows Changing Narratives. Before I get into that, a hearty happy birthday going out to two Kojos from right here in Multimedia. First is Samuel Kojo Brace, the man who serves you Joy News Prime every night. And of course, Kojo Nyako, fisherman. He's not on your screens as often these days because he's somewhere else, but we are celebrating all of them. Happy birthday going out to you. So yeah, we're leaving you with Ghana Grows Changing Narratives, brought to you by MasterCard Foundation in collaboration with Springboard Roadshow Foundation. I'm Sweetie Abochi, and I did this with Benjamin Akakpo. Bye for now. Mwah.